Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate that speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Hello, Mutta. Hello, Fada. Here I am at Okayama. See, it's always fun when we get to break out that song because we do go to Okayama, and it's beginning to look a lot like championship time here in the Monday Night Prototype Series in the Precision Racing League. Welcome to round 8 of our Prototype doubleheaders, and we do kick it off at Okayama. We'll go to Montreal a little bit later. We'll break out the French-Canadian. Until then, I will be Joey Tebben here in the booth alongside Ewan O'Leary, and behind the scenes will be Dustin Allis on production duty as always. But it's a very exciting night, Ewan. We go to Okayama first and foremost, a new refurbished track, at least in terms of the visuals. We go to the tight and twisty streets / parkland of Montreal in the GTP LMP2 series a little bit later, but it all starts here in Japan in some tight and twisty quarters.
Yeah, it's a couple of circuits that have some similarities in some ways because of the cars that we're taking to them. Maybe a little bit too big on a normal day, but I'm personally not opposed to that at all. Okayama should be a good race to start us off with LMP3s and GT4s, then we'll ramp things up at Montreal. Two circuits, in fact, that don't see an awful lot of multi-class racing, to be fair, although Okayama does a little bit, of course. Super GT comes here, at least used to. So it's maybe a little bit used to it, but let's see how we get on tonight.
And it is round 8 of 9. We are getting very, very close to that final round and crowning 4 champions on Monday nights. Next week, we will end the season at Long Beach. Talk about tight and twisty. It doesn't get much more tight and twisty than that. The concrete canyons, walls that are waiting to punish every little mistake. What better place could you possibly crown a champion than at Long Beach? But we do have to get through Okayama first, and a few drivers do have championship aspirations still on their minds. Dayton Lowe has the most championship aspirations. He's currently boasting a 50-point lead over Jason Drescher, but it's not mathematically sealed. You need over a 50-point lead, because in the PRL, if you do not finish more than 50% of the laps, you get 0 points. So if Dayton Lowe crashes out at Long Beach, theoretically, things could all open up in the championship. Or if he even has a bad week here at Okayama, things could open up. Jason Drescher is hoping for some of that bad luck. Greg Doucette is hoping for that as well. And Vincent Leroux, Nicholas Karangis, and Eric Kulaga, they're all in with an outside chance as well, if Dayton Lowe runs into a little bit of trouble here at Okayama. Dinsmore, Starker, Fowler, and the second Kulaga, Michael Kulaga, they're likely fighting for those last couple spots in the top 10. The team's championship is going to come down to the final round. It's been a couple of good weeks for Throttle Thursday so far, with Dinsmore, Doucette, and Karangis. Grant's Garage has taken a couple of hits, a couple missed races from Jason Drescher has left Ian Starker to pick up all the pieces, and it hasn't quite gone his way, but Starker's looking good in qualifying this week. Drescher's looking good in qualifying this week. Grant's Garage are going to be taking that fight to Throttle Thursday until the final round. In the GT4 driver standings, well, talk about no surprises. Justin Ream has won 7 out of 7 races so far. That streak will not continue, though. Justin Ream is missing this week, has to focus on qualifying for another series, so we are going to get a different winner for the first time this season. And if it's Graham Wildman, if it's Ted Lowendick, we may actually see a championship battle coming into next week, Ewan, albeit still a fairly distant one.
Yeah, maybe. The fact that you can't take your drop week in the final round means that both championships, in effect, could well be blown wide open, although it doesn't matter so much in LMP3, to be fair, because everyone up front, at least the front two, have taken drop weeks of 0 points anyway, so I guess we're already in that situation as things stand. But yeah, it helps keep things interesting towards the end here on this penultimate night, where we could well see quite a lot of championships settled, actually.
And Justin Ream and Graham Wildman, they both have the same drop week as well. Ream will drop this week, which will be a 0-point week. Wildman missed round 3, so coming into next week, it will likely be about that 40-point margin, I think, separating those two. There's only 2 points separating the lead two in the team's championship, though. Soy Boys Racing with Graham Wildman and Robert McGeehan, they boast a measly 2-point lead over Turn 1 and Done. That's Sean Romig and Gary Gainsel. The Miracle Flow Misfits with Ted Lowendick and Doug Evans, they're in there as well. Only 9 points off the lead. The Drivers' Championship may be a foregone conclusion. Justin Ream may book that next week, but the team's championship is going to come down to the final lap, and that is going to be very, very exciting to follow until the end of the season. But qualifying is currently underway at Okayama. We've got a couple seconds left, and while they finish that up, we can thank all the people who make all this possible here in the PRL, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. Racebox Sim Racing offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision5 coupon code. This coverage is also brought to you by The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with The Butt Kicker. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver and 2-time Rolex 24 winner Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And last but not least, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. Qualifying is now coming to an end, and with about 5 seconds left on the clock, I think we're actually going to be able to take you straight to the grid here in a matter of moments And I can tell you that there's no surprises in LMP3. Dayton Lowe has returned to LMP3 and has returned to his pole positioning ways. He'll start at the head of the field alongside championship rival Jason Drescher, who's going to be looking to pounce on lap 1. JP Alfonso, his best qualifying in an LMP3 car, P3, will put him right behind our pole sitter. Last week's pole sitter, Daniel Kranifus, will be on row number 2 alongside him. Matt Dinsmore and Vincent Leroux, 2 drivers who have been in podium contention this season, start from row number 3. Then Doucette and Starker, both looking for team points for their respective teams. Karangis is going to be doing the same. He starts alongside Kwok Nin. Nikos Sanidakis and Nicholas Salapoutis, don't get those 2 names confused, start alongside each other on row number 6. And unlucky 13th went to Mr. Josh Kimball, the final car in LMP3. Missing some of those Vulture cars, unfortunately, but I think we'll see them back next week at Long Beach. It's a new name on pole in GT4. No Justin Ream this week, and who's filled the void but another Canadian in a Porsche? It's Adam Ostrich, who will start from pole for the first time in his PRL career. He'll start alongside Maxime David. Ted Lowendick said the Mercedes wasn't going to be especially strong this week, but he starts alongside another Mercedes, Cade Smith, on an all-Mercedes row number 2. Graham Wildman was fastest in practice, couldn't quite get the lap in qualifying, though. He'll start 5th alongside another Porsche, Princess Daisy herself, or himself, Brett Pancari. Then P7 went to last week's pole sitter, Carter James, down a little bit lower than he would have liked in his Mercedes. He starts alongside his teammate Joshua Burke. Sean Romig and John Krauser round out the top 10. Michael Doyle, P11, starts alongside the leader of the Jennings. Will Jennings gets to beat Nathan this week. Doug Evans starts unlucky 13th alongside another very bright car in Matthew Zerwick's Porsche. Gary Gainsel and Robert McGeehan, 2 more drivers fighting for that team's championship. And then Nathan Jennings, the second Jennings, starts alongside the art car, Niall Drake, in a beautiful BMW. Duncan Starostka rounds out the GT4 field this week in his Aston Martin, and Sean Mulholland will not be racing. He'll be on admin duty on pit lane, so look for him to be watching for any naughtiness, any shenanigans. And I do imagine with a tight pace lap, or a tight first lap, I should say, here at Okayama, there's probably going to be some of those shenanigans, and you only have a few corners to get all the heat in your tires to make that lap 1 as easy as possible.
Yeah, not long at all to get yourself up to temperature here. And so it's going to be a bit of a voyage of discovery down in towards turn 1. Thankfully, it's not a big stop down here. It's a relatively flowing first corner, which is called first corner as far as my track map goes. So that's interesting. But anyway, they'll have to deal with it. And I'm sure they will be able to. The downforce cars should work well through those first couple at least.
But the iRacing Porsche pace car pulls down pit lane, and out of the final corner, it's going to be a very familiar sight for Dayton Lowe. He's going to take the green flag first, and it's a very early start for Dayton as we are green in the penultimate round here at Okayama. It's a good start for Drescher as well to clear Alfonso into turn 1. GT4 takes the green flag as well on the right side of your screen as they try and stratify into turn 1. They're going to be 3 wide in GT4. David, Wildman, and Ted Lowendick 3 wide into the first corner. They're still 3 wide with Ted Lowendick on the outside in that Mercedes.
Yeah, how can he figure himself through in towards turn 2 here? He's up on the inside, up on the curb. He's not going to have the run out of the turn here, and it's a long, long way around the outside at turn 4 as well, although they'll stick to single file now through this sort of chicane section before that hairpin, and they'll get into single file form finally, as they haven't really in LMP3.
And the left side of your screen, this is going to be the first real test, the heaviest braking zone on the track into the hairpin. You see some big lockups there. Big one from one of the Throttle Thursday cars. I believe that was Matt Dinsmore trying to go around the outside of Vincent Leroux. Then over on the right side of your screen, GT4, a battle on the brakes. Wildman and David make a little bit of contact. That opens the door for Ted Lowendick and the purple Mercedes to try and go around the outside. It's a switchback of the final sector, though. You're on the inside one corner, you're on the outside the next. It's almost impossible to run side by side for the full sector, but Leroux and Sanidakis, they're trying to do it in LMP3.
Oh dear, that was a big send. That was the third last corner at their turn 9. A real big send onto the inside, but everybody works out through, and it looks like in both categories actually we've got off to a clean start here. We've got everybody away from the field well, I think, and that's a remarkable thing around a circuit like this one, which can produce some bad moments if you get off to a bad start and can send you off pretty quickly indeed. But a good start from everyone. Oh, I spoke too soon. The very last corner, we very nearly made it for a whole lap, but the very last corner spoils it.
So close to making it a full lap, but Michael Doyle's around. You saw Doug Evans involved, the highlighter yellow Porsche of Zerwick as well. And I think Duncan Starostka may have gotten into some trouble of his own at the back of the field. He should get by Doyle into turn 1. but it was a little bit of a Porsche festival coming through the final corner. We'll catch a replay of what happened when we can, because other than that, it has been fully clean through about a lap and a half here. You see Nicholas Carangis trying to look for a move on JP Alfonso. Doesn't work there. Here's what happened to Duncan Starostka, though. He was the first spinner. We didn't actually see that out of the second to last corner.
No, not quite, but it was just on the power there through turn 9. Bit of a surprise, really, because these cars do have traction control after all, but I guess you are trying to maximise everything. And this is what happened into the final turn. That's an ambitious dive down the inside, I think it's fair to say. And there was always going to be contact there. Sadly, both of those Porsches going around.
And I think Doug Evans in the green Mercedes actually did a fairly good job of making it through that. I don't know if there was any contact there, so he may actually get away with that. But that's now in the back seat, and we continue to focus on this battle. JP Alfonso fell off the podium. Kranifus was able to get by him on lap 1, but now he's got a very hungry train behind him. Let's see what happened from Doug Evans' perspective, though. Does he make it through the hole? There may have been a couple of scrapes there, but I think he's mostly okay.
I think he made a hole, to be honest with you, on the outside there. He just punched his way through, and well, I guess it works. And as long as he doesn't have too much damage, then he's still in the race at least. And he's not gone for a spin, but that could have been a whole lot worse for everybody actually in GT4.
The power of the drone following Nicholas Carangis there. I think he has broken the draft of Vincent Leroux just enough. It's a very, very long straight, and these cars are fairly effective at drafting, but not long enough for Vincent Leroux to do anything. And this is also a very, very tracky when you make a setup choice, because this is an open setup here. You decide how much downforce you want. Do you want to favor the long straights, or do you want to favor the tight twisting in the middle final sectors? It's a decision that every driver has to make, but it also gets pretty frustrating. I think if you're on a high downforce setup and you can't take advantage of those long straights like it appears Vincent Leroux struggling to do.
Yeah, but after all, it's not a particularly high-speed circuit with that regard. There is one long straight, of course, and the front straight is medium-ish, I would call it, but it's not one of those that you can really make a huge difference with and take a huge advantage from. So it'll be interesting to see what they've gone for with regards to setup here. I think as we cut back to the GT4s, a lot of the moves are going to be made and created through the traffic.
Oh, Nicholas Carangis surrounded a turn 1. I don't know if he got any help, but there's a little bit of target fixation there from his fellow Nicholas Salaputis, who throws it off the road in turn 1. Luckily, avoids his fellow LMP3. I think Doug Evans may have gotten into some trouble as well coming through the final sector. That was into turn 8. Lots of drivers really realizing that Okayama, it may be a simple place. We may take rookie drivers here, but it gets pretty tough.
There's the spin. Just looked like he lost grip almost through the mid part of that corner. It didn't look like he went in too hard or did anything a little bit unusual compared to what he'd been doing previously. So that was a slightly odd one, to be honest, but thankfully he wasn't collected by anybody. Here it is again in towards turn 1. There it happens in front, and in the end they do well to avoid each other.
John Krauser off as well in GT4. It's just been a single car. It's been a sequence of single car incidents. Here's what happened to John coming through turn 2, and a very good job of avoidance from Sean Romig there.
Yeah, that was a bit of grass on the way into turn 2 by the looks of things. Just trying to widen out that corner as much as possible. We'll not quite see it there because of the bridge, but there's the avoidance. Stamping on the brakes just in time to avoid.
Those were not ARCA brakes from Sean Romig. Those are some very good brakes there. Niall Drake has to get on the brakes a little bit earlier than Doug Evans. He's not able to move into the hairpin. But after a few single car incidents, after a little bit of trouble, we can check in on the rest of the field. Dayton Lowe has a 2-second lead over Jason Drescher. He won the last Japanese track we went to by about 30 seconds. It's looking like he might be able to do the same thing here. Adam Ostrich has a 1-second lead in GT4. All that squabbling on lap 1 really helped him. But the battle in the middle of the field in LMP3 kicks off now. Nico Sanadakis trying to break the draft into the hairpin as one of the Throttle Thursday cars is trying to get by him. That's Greg Doucette looking to the outside into the hairpin. That's going to prove too difficult for him. He's going to have to slot in line and look for his next opportunity.
He's going to have to, and the danger around here is that if you get settled in too much like this, then you find yourself very much stuck in the position that you're in. So you've got to be very careful not to sort of assign yourself that position and get stuck there. Defense again from Zanadakis into turn 8, again into turn 9. This odd little switchback section then round the outside for Doucette doesn't get him anywhere.
Trying to make it work around the outside, but all those hairpins are flat. There's no banking. It's not like a NASCAR track, so going around the outside is exceptionally difficult. But Doucette is really trying to push this. He's got the team's championship to worry about. Jason Drescher for Grant's Garage is currently in second. Ian Starker is only a couple spots behind. He's in the back of this train. So it's going to be going pretty well for Grant's Garage, less well for Throttle Thursday. Every point matters now for Greg Doucette. He's just worrying about himself for now, but I'm sure if he looks at the team's championship afterwards and they're in the lead, he'll be saying, yeah, I'm glad I fought this so hard.
Yeah, it will all be worth it in the end, maybe. See what the results are looking like at the end of the day. This is by far the biggest group in LMP3, fighting for 6th position. The final spots inside the top 10, because the top 5 are all very much driving away from one another at this stage. And down on the brakes goes Zanadakis, still hanging on to that position. No overtakes on the way down towards turn 5 there on the brakes.
And Zanadakis is currently fighting for his best result in LMP3. Finished 6th over at Sandown a couple of weeks ago, and he's looking to match that and maybe looking to do even better, because this is the series where single car incidents, single car spins do tend to come at the end of the race. If there is one of those and there's a little bit of trouble, Zanadakis could be looking at a top 5 finish. There's been a little bit of trouble in GT4 further back. I think Carter James and Cade Smith, they've gotten into some sort of bother, as Ted Lowendick has gotten by both of them, and he's up into P4. But here's what happened. Joshua Burke involved. He sends the dive, doesn't get into his teammate, but does get into the gravel.
Well, that was an unnecessary risk, I would describe it as, to be honest. When your teammate is the car in front of the one you're trying to overtake and you're braking that late, then you've got to really rethink your priorities into the first turn there, because that was too aggressive on the brakes. Very nearly ended up in team disaster, and a move that didn't really need to be made. There's well over half this race left.
Do you know what my favorite fact about this track is, Ewan?
I don't know any facts, so go on.
This is the only track in the world that's hosted a race with the same name as a car entered in the race. Back in 1997, I believe. I'm going to have to double check that to get the year exactly right. 1994, F1 had the Pacific Grand Prix, and there was a team entered in F1 at that time called Pacific Grand Prix. That's the only time that's ever happened.
Oh, I see what you mean. So a team name in the race name.
Exactly. That's never happened any other time.
It probably wouldn't, again, to be honest. It's such a basic computer-generated Grand Prix racing name, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's because there was also Suzuka. There was also the Japanese Grand Prix, so they had to change it up a little bit. Get Pacific. Matthew Zerwick going for the move on Doug Evans, trying to recover some of his stuff. And Jason Drescher is interacting with traffic for the first time. Dayton Lowe, a little bit further ahead in your screen, was able to get through the GT4s for the first time. But it has barely even been 10 minutes into this race, Ewan, and we're already starting to see those very, very pesky traffic interactions, and they're only going to get more pesky if you reach them through that final sector.
Yeah, they are. I'm not sure where. Yeah, so these guys are not too far away, actually, are they? So this is where most of the overtakes are going to come from now. As they work their way through traffic, they will now try and overtake one another as a result. Greg Doucette very close behind on the way out of turn 4 on that occasion. Is he going to look down the inside here? Well, that's going to be blocked off from him. It's a long way around the outside here. It makes it very difficult to overtake, even with that lock-up. Oh, contact here.
Kwok Nin says, I'm trying to come through here. I see the door open. I'm going for it. Doesn't work out for him. He's shuffled out. Doucette hangs on. But this is a train like we've never seen before, and they're about to catch Michael Doyle into those final 2 hairpins. Is Zanadakis going to be able to pounce, or is he going to get held up? Doucette goes for a drift behind Zanadakis. Kwok Nin around the outside of Greg. Greg's going to fight back on the inside, though, and take the position back. Kwok's not done on the outside. Ian Starker thinks about 3 wide and backs out of it, but they're still 2 by 2, and Doucette has to hold back. Kwok Nin around the outside takes 7th place away.
Yeah. It's where it was always going to happen, in the traffic, although it's the mere thought of traffic rather than actual traffic itself. Now another dive. That was brave on the brakes, and unfortunately Greg Doucette goes around. Didn't quite see that coming, really, I don't think, down the inside there.
Yeah, that was Ian Starker who sent it, and I don't know if there was actually contact there or not, but Doucette goes all the way to the back of the LMP3 field, and when we were talking about that team's championship with Grant's Garage versus Throttle Thursday, both Grant's Garage drivers are now ahead of all the Throttle Thursday drivers. It has not gone their way today. Let's see what happened into turn 1. Starker in that gunmetal green car, diving it in the Throttle Thursday LMP3. There may have been a little bit of contact.
I think there was. And as I said, I don't think Greg Doucette fully realised he had a car down his inside there. I just, I don't think he saw that one coming at all. There was a slight bit of contact. He ends up spinning into the gravel on the outside. So unfortunate, but that was always going to happen in a group like that.
And back in GT4, that gap has only expanded. Graham Wildman and Maxime David, they're now fighting for second on sort of an island of their own, because Adam Ostrich in that Porsche, he has absolutely found his legs, and he's been running away from these guys. He has not been feathering the throttle. He has been running faster than any other animal on Earth to take P1 by about 3 seconds right now.
Yeah, he's started very well, and in fact both class leaders have at the moment. Adam Ostrich with a slightly bigger gap, and there is a bit of clever traffic work back here outside the top 10. Greg Doucette on the recovery drive, using a lap car there to protect his position.
Now he's got lap cars side by side, at least they were for a moment. Gets through Doug Evans, gets through John Krauser, and he's actually going to be able to pull a fairly decent gap now over Salaputis, who gets stuck behind Krauser through this little chicane coming down the hill. I don't believe any of those are actually technically corners. I think Moss is a corner, turn 3 there, but that's about 4 different little twisty bits that in a GT4 car you do actually have to navigate. It's not just a straight like it is in an LMP3 car. You do have to make sure you're pointed perfectly straight and getting that angle correct. This is what I was talking about though. Sonidakis is going to get very frustrated here because it is so tight through this final sector. He's going to get through on Will Jennings. Kwok Nin's not going to be so quick with it though. Yep,
it's going to take just a pause, and then back down the inside again into turn 8, and then 9. This, as I said earlier, this very odd switchback section. This circuit sort of made over such a small bit of land, but making the most of it clearly as Joshua Burke makes his way into the pit lane for one of the earlier stops of the day.
Yeah, I think it may be the earliest stop of the day. We may have another stop, though, as Robert McGeehan and Nicholas Salaputis have come together. A little bit of inter-category violence. Matthew Zerwick's going to bring it down pit lane as well. But that's the first time we've seen LMP3 on GT4 contact. And I do wonder, was that a spin from a car in front? Was that 2 cars getting into each other? We'll have to wait and see, but that is that's another hit to Nicholas Salaputis. He has not had the easiest day today at Okayama.
Well, I don't think we can say traffic was necessarily involved in that. There was eventual contact, but I think it was a solo spin, to be honest. It's where the LMP... is that on live pictures there's a GT4 off the road as well, in towards turn number 1. So it's all kicking off around the circuit, unfortunately, and not always in a good way. That's Doug Evans getting back underway.
And I think, to give Robert McGeehan credit, he did get on the brakes and didn't get into Salaputis there. But Evans, he has not been a fan of turn 1 today. You see one of his fellow GT4s going a little bit wide around the outside there. I think that may have been Staroska getting a little bit of avoidance out of the way there. McGeehan's gotten into some more trouble, though, through turn 4. Coming up the hill, it's come undone for him yet again. Very late in the brakes, and wee around he goes. Yeah,
too late on the brakes again. And so far, everyone finding this circuit pretty difficult as Graham Wildman comes into the pit lane. Not sure what this with the early stops today, but we're not even halfway through yet, and we've seen a lot of them.
Well, you know what, Ewan? We have the ability to directly ask the drivers while they're doing strategy. So let's go down to Mystery Ted Lowendick's Science Theater here. Ted, explain the strategy. Why are we seeing you come in earlier than just about anybody else?
All the LMP3s are coming, and Graham Wildman joined me, so this might be the way to do it.
There we go, going down to Ted Lowendick for strategy. That's why we come to you, Ted. How do we think it's going to work to the end of the day? Adam Ostrich had about a 3-second lead before this pit stop cycle kicked off. Is that going to be the case for the rest of the day?
I mean, the Birdman is flying tonight, so congrats to him. If he keeps it together, it looks like he's going to get his first win in the PRL ever, I think. So congrats to him. I think he's a friend of Nick McLaughlin's, so Actually, that's Daytona 500 winning Nick McLaughlin.
That is true, and that's a valuable thing for you to say, Ted, because if Adam Ostrich does win, he gets an invite to the newly announced second edition of the PRL All-Star Invitational that, if I'm not mistaken, a guy named Ted Lowendick may have received an invite to as well.
I did. I haven't accepted yet, but that's just because I was at work when you sent him out, and yeah.
Yeah, just like we did 2 seasons ago, every single winner in all of the PRL series will get to participate in a race together, but we've got more trouble on track. You and as Greg Doucette has gone around again for Throttle Thursday. Ted's commiserating with them.
Yeah, they're still listening to our commentary. I can't imagine how annoying that would be. He goes around, Greg Doucette. It's, oh dear, well, it is sort of traffic, but it could have happened at any time, I suppose. Stamps on the brakes way too hard going into turn 8 there, and so he goes around and has to get back going again and rejoin for a second time in the last few minutes.
Josh Kimball was almost a Josh Pinball there with Doucette coming across the road. Lucky to avoid him. A Kwok-Nin now up to P6, got around Nico Sanadakis while we were looking elsewhere on the track, and now he looks forward at his teammate JP Alfonso, who has now fallen off the podium and may be within touching distance if he has any further issues, and if Kwok can make up that gap.
Yeah, well, it's a gap that's only grown bigger the longer that has taken. A little bit wide into turn 5 as well, which won't help, but should be able to hang on now, you would have thought, after this long of waiting. Not going to give up that position too easily. There you can see the gap already extending. 6th place for him, and those few behind should find it difficult to get back past him again, although the pit stops could change everything here. We haven't seen too many LMP3s in, while we have seen quite a few GT4s.
And it will bring us back to the All-Star Invitational, like we were talking about before Greg Doucette spun. It is a very exciting opportunity because, especially in series like we have on Monday nights, where you've had dominant drivers all the way around. You've had Dayton Lowe winning the majority of races in LMP3. You had Justin Ream winning every GT4 race until today. You had Pat Pelshaw in GTP. You had Daniel Zegers in LMP2. All those guys have been dominant, but they don't get to be dominant anymore in single machinery, single make racing, and racing on the same track. We'll do that on Sunday, March 10th, and that'll be very, very exciting.
Yeah, it will be. Is there a preceding race where people get to race their way in again or not?
Not this year, because we just have so many drivers. We went back from 2023 Season 4 and 2024 Season 1, so there's quite a few drivers eligible, but you know, I may be nice. I may put up a race the night before for people to get in, so you know, maybe John Krauser or Ewan O'Leary decides to show up and make the race, they might be able to.
I remember that's exactly why I mentioned it, because you were trying to get me to do the first one.
You should have. I didn't get to see you on the figure 8 and the Miatas. It was a shame.
I don't think I could have done that. There must have been some sort of reason that I couldn't have done it.
Probably that it was at like 2 a.m.
Well, that is one reason, but it's not stopping me from being here. So, so there we are. Yeah, it will be exciting to see once again a sort of convergence of all the different categories of driver as well, which is always interesting to see.
This will be exciting in its own right. Pit stops kicking off for LMP3. Kwok-Nin is going to be the first one to bring it down pit lane. His teammate JP Alfonso ahead of him is actually going to bring it in ahead of him. That's a very tough pit entry. It's a lot of corners, which you don't normally associate with pit entry, and I think they may have seen a little bit up the road. They saw Doyle, they saw Drake, and they said, let's come down pit lane, let's avoid this traffic and try and make up some time.
Yeah, because after all, those guys who are going through... oh dear, who's that?
I think that's Robert McGeehan. I think he's just getting out of the way, so that may have been nice. Although he does look heavily damaged and heavily towed, so that may have not been courtesy. Oh, and was that Dayton Lowe who he got into?
Not sure. It was certainly a car with quite a few seconds back to the next LMP3, which does fit the description of Dayton Lowe, certainly. And there's definitely suspension damage on that GT4 as well. There's no doubt about that. Dearie me.
Is he going to be able to get it stopped for the hairpin? We ride on board with Dayton Lowe here. It was him, and that was inches away, Ewan, from the comfortable race leader being taken out by a damaged car. That's probably the scariest moment Dayton Lowe's had in weeks.
Exactly, and that is always the danger, especially when you've already got a drop week with a 0-point score, meaning that every race absolutely matters from here on in. You're never quite safe in this championship. He has made it more than 50% of the race now, so he should get points for wherever he finished, but he dropped quite a few of them if he were to have problems. Thankfully, he avoided, though.
And we can do a little bit of championship math right now, because the gap coming into this race was 50 points. If things go as they are, Dayton Lowe getting the pole position and the fastest lap would score 57 points. Jason Drescher would score 52 points for finishing second. That would mean it would be a 55-point gap between the two of them coming into the championship finale, which means that theoretically Jason Drescher would have a chance at the championship if he qualifies on pole, gets the fastest lap, and wins the race, and Dayton Lowe crashes. If that doesn't happen, though, Dayton may get to have one hand in the championship today.
Yeah, I think he's had one hand on that championship for quite a while, to be honest with you. And he's finally going to seize it with both hands next week, but can't give it to him too early. You know, you've got to get there and actually clinch it properly in the end. So it's going to be still one to watch at the end, and a difficult end to the season, of course, as well next week.
Riding on board with Greg Doucette, he's on his recovery drive after a few early issues, trying to get by Josh Kimball in that very easily differentiable bright red LMP3. Doucette's hunting through these two 90-degree corners. It almost feels like a street circuit through here, and Doucette's got a decent exit. Straight's not long enough to take advantage of it, though. You do have to, oh, maybe it is long enough for him to take advantage of it. Sends the dive into the first hairpin, and Doucette muscles his way through.
Yeah, very much muscles his way through. It wasn't really the straight that gave him the opportunity, to be honest. It was more the braking zone, and the fact that he was just so much better through there allowed him to take the position. So a good overtake on the brakes there. Very late and daring move down the inside, but he's made it work, and he's up another position. So that's a very good start and a very good place for him to be for now, and at least moving forward, as he's spent a lot of this race going backwards in more ways than one.
Exactly. Still waiting for pit stops for basically the majority of the LMP3 field. We've only had Alfonso, Nin, and Salaput to spring it down pit lane. But in GT4, we may start seeing some takers. The leader in GT4, Adam Ostrich, has finally brought that Porsche down pit lane. Carter James does the same. Cade Smith comes in as well. I think it's pit stop time. I think we've reached the hard end of those fuel tanks down in GT4.
Looks like it. Can anybody go any further there in GT4? I mean, we've not got very many more options, actually, in terms of those who might go further. Nathan Jennings was the final of them, and he's in too. Graham Wildman and Ted Lowendick are going to be first then, but are they going to be anywhere near Adam Ostrich, who's making his way out of pit lane now? Wildman makes his way past those on pit lane, but not really into the lead. He's a bit closer, but not too much.
Yeah, a little bit closer than I think Adam Ostrich would have liked. 2.5 seconds is within the margin of error if there is any trouble in traffic. But I think Adam is going to be fairly comfortable right now. Vincent Leroux brings it down pit lane in LMP3. We're starting to see some more takers down there. Only 10 minutes to go. These pit stops are probably going to be pretty short. And there's only a few drivers left to see down pit lane.
Yeah, not too many. Or not any, actually, in GT4. But we've got still actually a fair few in LMP3. Vincent Leroux, the first of them inside the top 10 at the time to make a stop. That still leaves the other 9 to make a pit stop here, but it will be a short one, of course, in LMP3. Quick splash of fuel and then back on your way again.
Back on the Matthew Zerwick recovery drive, got by Niall Drake there. I think Niall may have gotten into a few issues, but this has been a good recovery drive from Zerwick. Got into a little bit of trouble on lap 1, maybe caused himself and Michael Doyle to spin. But since then, he's been clean, he's been looking forward, and he's just been trying to take every single point he can get today. We'll see where that takes him. But Dayton Lowe does bring it down pit lane this time. On his own, though, Drescher is able to stretch it 1 lap longer. Kranifus is going to be able to do the same.
It looks like it. And was that a case of Dayton Lowe running out of fuel there, or was he just deciding that that was the moment to come in anyway? I mean, he had clean air, so he's clearly not avoiding traffic by the looks of things. As we look at Jason Drescher and some well, he's got an LED light somewhere, hasn't he? But there he is with his ultra wide screen in front of him, making good use of it. He's got a wheel that looks very like an LMP3 wheel, so I bet he's enjoying himself in this car at the moment.
All that hyper realism, and I love the purple. Big fan of the purple. He's a very thematic driver. He's got the purple car, he's got the purple lights. Doesn't have the purple lap, though, unfortunately. That belongs to Dayton Lowe, but you never know what could happen in the final stages of the race. We will take you through the carousel of entertainment, I think, once Jason Drescher takes his pit stop, because there's lots of drivers who have provided their cameras, and I believe one of the Echelon SimSport drivers may be one of them, as their teammates are fighting side by side. One of the Throttle Thursday LMP3s gets through, but almost doesn't get through, as Carter James was very late in the brakes and almost got into the side of Carangis, or Dinsmore, rather.
They all stacked up there. It was a real bumper-to-bumper situation, and then eventually the slightest bit of contact down on the brakes there as well, and a very angry flash of the lights on the next straight as well. Not pleased, I think, about what just happened, but it's a bit late, really, for the light flashing now.
The Echelon SimSport drivers may be having a little bit of civil war, and now a battle for second. Adam Ostrich has pulled a full second over these guys in the last lap. It looked like it might potentially be close. It's not going to happen this time, as pit stops for the final couple LMP3 cars are taking place. Drescher does it, Kranifus does it, Dinsmore brings it down. Starker is actually able to go one lap longer. He's been able to save a little bit of fuel. This is going to get dicey into turn one, though. Drescher gets to the inside of David, doesn't clear Ted Lowendick, though, and he's going to be stuck behind Wildman coming down the hill.
Yeah, well, oh, that's tight as well. Lowendick just had to give a little bit of space to one of the LMP3s going around the outside. Graham Wildman gets a nice run through there, actually. He did have a slightly compromised line on the way to 4, but in the end, he's been turned out quite nicely by all of that. So these three drivers now will fight for the final 2 spots on the podium, really. That's what's up for grabs here.
And Ian Starker, the only driver able to go 20 laps in an LMP3 car. I hope he's actually able to make it to the finish of this lap, because I do not want to see him running out of fuel. He's not going to finish in third place today. He will cycle a little bit further back, but if he's able to extend this and shorten that pit stop a little bit, that could be the difference potentially between maybe 7th or 8th or 9th. A couple extra points matter for this driver fighting for the team's championship, and he is stretching that fuel to try and make it happen.
Yeah. Is that going to benefit him at all, though? I mean, sometimes you can stretch the fuel a little bit further by saving, but is it really worth it? Well, doesn't seem he's had to do too much of that. He pulls into the pit lane now with what should be 5 to go, and he will drop down outside of those podium places.
I think Ted Lowendick and Maxime David may be having a couple of interactions down there in GT4, but it doesn't look like anything too bad. Ian Starker, though, down pit lane. This is going to be the test. How does he come out? Does he come out ahead of Kwok Nin potentially? Will he be able to gain a spot and finish in 7th? That will be the question. These are the issues that Ted Lowendick's been having. It's not been issues with Maxime David. It's been issues with the internet service providers of Ohio. They always cause a little bit of trouble. Here is the blend, though. Ian Starker coming out of pit lane. It's not going to be 7th. It's not going to be 8th. It's not even going to be 9th. It might actually be 10th, as here comes Carangis with a full head of steam. Is he going to get to the inside into turn 2? He's not. Starker does hang on to 9th, but I think that's a couple spots lower than he would have liked.
Well, the pit exit here spits you right out onto the apex of turn 1, so it's not exactly too bad when you're exiting there and trying to hold on to a position. And unfortunately, it looks like Ted Lowendick may well have disconnected from the session. I'm not entirely sure. He certainly dropped down the field as Carangis gets down the inside, but no, Starker good and late on the brakes this time around.
Oh, the switchback, though. I don't think anything's going to change there, though. Doug Evans is now the sole representative for the Miracle Flow Misfits. He's got to score every point he can to keep these guys alive in the team's championship. And I do have to imagine, Ewan, that he's going to be looking up at that thing mounted on the wall, and he's going to be saying, oh dear, our chances have gone down a little bit.
Yeah, and they certainly have. It's very painful to see, and he will not be able to do anything about it. We've just got to put that behind him and try and get what he can now from this race.
And Nico Sanadakis around in the final corner. Nobody got into him. Everybody did a good job of avoiding him, but that is going to be a damaged number 17. Was having the best race of his season so far, and it's going to end with him towing down pit lane. Big trouble for Nico Sanadakis.
Let's see how it happened. Into the final corner, just slightly in the gravel. Gets into the wall quite badly there, actually. So what looked like from the resting position as a fairly innocuous spin turned out not to be the case, and maybe the same for this Aston Martin for the Absolute Racing team. No front end on this one now.
And that is not what you like to see. That's not how an Aston Martin was meant to look. Let's see what happened to him. Coming through the two 90-degree corners, he meets bare concrete and destroys the front end of that Aston Martin.
That is hard contact there with the wall, and that'll be a pit lane trip as well. So the circuit certainly has bitten a few, and it won't stop.
It won't stop. Joshua Burke meets gravel this time. Gravel is better than concrete, but still not going to be a very, very happy Joshua Burke behind the wheel of that car. Was there some help from some LMP3 traffic? Yes, there was.
Well, we haven't seen so much of that tonight so far, to be honest. It's all been individuals going off, finding their own way into the gravel, but that time around, the prototype certainly to blame, and one for the stewards to look at maybe.
Yeah, that was Nicholas Caran just giving him a little bit of help, so lead driver steward Arnaud Genet will definitely be taking a look at that, and we'll see what comes of that. But this battle isn't over. We may have lost Ted Lowendick, he may have disconnected, but we do have Graham Wildman, we do have Maxime David, McLaren versus BMW. Who's going to take the final spot in the podium?
Well, it's going to be...
Or at least the second spot in the podium. I think they're both pretty easily going to be on the podium.
Well, you think so, but if they hit each other, then you don't know what's going to happen here. Ooh. Because the gap back to Carter James is only 3 seconds. So that's not going to be crossed on his own, but you just never know what's going to happen between these two. And there's certainly a case for battling over which order they're going to be on the podium here between the two of them. The McLaren seems to have the legs to be safe for now, though.
I think it's going to be 2 laps to go with the line. We haven't said much about Dayton Lowe, but he has been controlling the pace of this race, and he is going to get yet another win in the LMP3. I think Adam Ostrich is going to do the same in GT4, but it is all to be decided for second place here. 1 second now separates David and Wildman. That BMW has been fairly strong in the middle sector, though. I think he missed that a little bit as Ian Starker gets to the inside of him into the second hairpin.
So that's really not going to help. You're going to hope that this give and take of traffic really balances itself out in the next lap. Oh, it might not even matter. Maxime David here way too far behind, 1.5 seconds. Surely that can't come down in 2 laps.
And I'm hearing that Ted Lowendick's issues were not just the typical internet issues that the throughput runs into issues. It is a full Wi-Fi outage. So if anybody at home knows anybody who works with those undersea internet cables, make sure we can get one of those directly connected to Ted Lowendick's house. I think he needs one of them. Boris Ovando as well, who's coming up. He needs one of those direct lines as well. But here's Dayton Lowe. He's had no trouble whatsoever. Since lap 1, he has been in total control of this race, and he is going to cross the line to take 1 lap to go. It's going to be a victory lap of sorts for Dayton Lowe, as he is not going to mathematically clinch the championship today, but by every law of reality, I think he's going to clinch the championship today.
Yeah, he's certainly going to believe that he's got one hand on the trophy, and to be honest, I think a lot of people have believed that over the last few weeks, especially when Jason Drescher had that difficult time. I think it was about 3 weeks ago or so, round 5 of the championship, and then didn't start the race after that. That was at the Suzuka race where he had problems and then didn't start Barber. Those were the real moments when Dayton Lowe really took charge of this championship and hasn't looked back since then. If he can complete the end of this lap, it'll be 4 in a row for him.
And Dayton's worst race was that race at Sandown where he crashed. That was his Dayton low, but since then it has been nothing but Dayton highs. And it must feel good to be a driver in this situation, Ewan. You're coming through the final sector. There's barely any GT4 traffic in front of you. You might have to deal with Nathan Jennings before the lap is up, but you have an 11-second margin. What can you even do at this point other than just smile and wait for the finish?
Yeah, exactly. He'll be celebrating really already in his head because this has been a good drive again. He gets to really think about how he's going to celebrate after this one as well, because he's dominated this one right from start to finish again.
We go to Long Beach next week. That's always a question. There's always the possibility for crashes and drama, but Dayton Lowe is going to solidify his championship lead and make sure all he has to do next week is finish. Dayton Lowe wins at Okayama and puts one hand and maybe about a 75th% of another hand on the championship trophy. It's looking very good for him. Pole, fastest lap, and win. But we go a little bit further back to a driver who's looking for his first win in the PRL. Justin Ream has won every race in this category so far this season. He had to miss this week, though. He had to deal with another league commitment, and that opened a power vacuum in this series for anybody to take the reins. You might think it would be the past winner, Graham Wildman. You might think it would be a past winner, Ted Lowendick. It has not been the case today, as Adam Ostrich has just dunked on the rest of the field.
Yeah, I think those two are going to be disappointed, really, that they haven't gone through and taken the win here at their best opportunity. But no, it will be Ostrich to take his first win of the season and probably move up as well from 6th in the standings.
Forget everything you've ever been told. Ostriches can fly. Adam Ostrich wins at Okayama and takes his first win in the PRL. It is Porsche power. 8 out of 8 wins for a Porsche in GT4. Just a slightly different driver this time with Mr. Adam Ostrich. Graham Wildman comes home in second. That's going to be good for him, as he is going to keep the championship mathematically alive coming into Long Beach. It's still going to be about a 50-point lead, I think, for Justin Ream. But if he crashes and Graham Wildman wins, the math is still mathing. It is possible, albeit very unlikely. With the timing of Dayton Lowe crossing the line, though, everybody has now finished the race. It's a very short victory lap for Adam Ostrich, and Dayton Lowe is your victor today yet again, and almost the champion. Very much almost the champion, but I think we'll crown him very early next week. Jason Drescher comes home in second. It's still been a very strong season for him, and second behind Lowe is nothing to be disappointed about. Daniel Cranifus rounds out the podium in LMP3. Vincent LaRue had a quiet day, but he comes home in P4, and JP Alfonso, top 5 for him. It's going to be a pretty solid result. His teammate, Kwok Nin, comes in right behind. Matt Dinsmore and Nicholas Crange is P7 and P8 for Throttle Thursday. Those could be critical points as they and Grant's Garage prepare to do battle in the Teams Championship next week. Greg Doucette rounds out the top 10. He won't get Teams Championship points for Throttle Thursday, though. It's only the top 2 out of 3 drivers can score points in that. Salaputis and Kimball 11th and 12th, and Nikos Sanadakis, the sole member of the used car lot, got into some trouble with some concrete in the final laps. Adam Ostrich won his first race in GT4. He gets it ahead of Graham Wildman, who was definitely a favorite coming into this week. The McLaren just didn't have the legs, though, and he'll come home in second to keep a bare championship hope alive in Long Beach next week. Maxime David rounds out the podium in GT4, and Carter James and Cade Smith mean it's 2 Mercedes rounding out the end of the top 5. Brett Punkari started 6th and finished 6th, very consistent from him, and then Romig, Burke, Jennings, and the other Jennings rounded out the top 10. John Krauser ran into some trouble. He finished P11. Gary Gainsel for turn 1 and done was P12. Doyle, Zerwick, Drake, and Evans rounded out the drivers who finished 1 lap down. Ted Lowendick would have been on the podium, but a meteor struck his Wi-Fi. Unfortunately, that took him out of contention. Starostka and McGeehan both ran into trouble as well, 5 and 6 laps down respectively, with a damaged McLaren and Aston Martin, respectively, the other way around. But we've got some very happy drivers, as always, to talk to. And yet again, break out the RaceSpot soundboard, because I'm going to ask some of the same old questions to Dayton Lowe. Dayton, we come back to Japan. I think it was about 30 seconds you won by at Suzuka. It's 10 seconds you won by today to Okayama. You did it again. What can I even ask you at this point?
You know, as one random kid on the internet said, another day, another win for the OG. Memes aside, it was a tough race, I'm not gonna lie. It really didn't feel like it was 10 seconds. It was close.
So next week at Long Beach, by my calculations, you're gonna have a 55-point lead over Jason Drescher. And I believe what that means is unless you crash and Jason wins, gets the fastest lap, and starts on pole, you'll be the champion. Is that a comfortable position, or do you still want to win next week?
I physically cannot win next week because I have to go out of town next week. So my fate is completely up in the air.
Suddenly the championship has just become much more exciting.
I'm mildly terrified, but all I could do now is just cross my fingers. But well, let's see where this goes.
Well, Dayton, I guess I can say I wish you good luck if you'll be watching on, and we won't see you next week. But if you are the champion, maybe we'll get to log into the Discord while you're out of town.
I'll see what I can do, but I appreciate it.
Dayton Lowe coming home for his last win of the season, but maybe not his last interview with us. We'll see if we can get him while he's on vacation next week. We do have the winner in GT4 right in the nick of time, Ewan. You're not going to talk to Justin Ream for once this week. You're going to talk to a first-time winner, Adam Ostrich.
Yeah, Adam, welcome in. Good to have you with us. What was the expectation from you and others here today with Justin Rim absent? Were you all hoping for a win? Did you think you could win today? We're trying to get Adam at the moment. We can't quite hear him. Adam, can you hear us on the...
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, here we go.
Sorry.
So, do you think? Yeah, did you think you could win here today?
Not even a little bit. For the couple of official sessions I put in, I felt very off pace, but I got a few points on where I was losing speed from Mr. Justin Ream after one of my officials, and I think that helped significantly.
Like everybody says, they don't expect to win one of these races, so fair enough. What was the actual race like in terms of traffic, though? This is not a normal circuit to see multi-class racing on. It's quite tight and twisty. Was it difficult to manage?
Yeah, there were a few spots where I wasn't quite sure where to go and got kind of slowed down by some LMPs, but for the most part, it was a fairly quiet race. Graham kept me honest with pace. I kept an eye on that delta, but after the pit cycle, thankfully, it looked like we were both fairly even, so yeah.
And you sound like you got a British accent. Is it also 2:30 in the morning for you?
No, I'm actually in Canada, but expat, so nice and
there you are.
casual evening.
Fair enough. You're in a better place than me, I'd imagine. Congratulations on the win tonight, Adam. Thanks for coming to chat to us, and yeah, congratulations once again.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks very much. Adam Oster is there, the winner of tonight's race in a British accent, but in a better place than me, as I say. It's probably a more sensible time in the day.
How about that? A better place both physically and mentally, I'm sure. But we're happy to have Adam Ostrich here. So thank you, Nick McLaughlin. If you actually did bring him in, hopefully we'll be seeing him for many more seasons. But let's get the carousel of entertainment continued here. We go back up to LMP3, and we go back up to Jason Drescher yet again. Jason, I don't know if you were listening, but we heard some big news. Dayton Lowe will not be here next week. So if you win the race and get either the fastest lap or the pole at Long Beach next week, you could take the championship away from him.
I did not hear that news, so that'll be very interesting. So hopefully I'll do well.
Well, how do you feel about Long Beach? Because that's some pretty big pressure. You have to win and score the fastest lap or the pole. Are you confident about Long Beach?
You know, it's never been my best track, so I just got to keep it out of the walls. That's the biggest thing.
Well, Jason, we might as well give you every second to get practicing, and we'll see you next week to see if you can pull off.
All right, look forward to it. All right, have a good night.
Jason Drescher coming home second today, but I imagine he's going to be seeing a lot of Long Beach over the next couple weeks. We'll continue our zipper formation here as Ewan gets a special treat. He gets to talk to the most viewed interview of Race Spot's week. It's the Graham Wildman interview.
Yeah, welcome in, Graham. Good to have you with us. Did you sort of have high expectations for this race here, knowing that Justin Wren wasn't here for this one? What were the expectations?
Yeah, I definitely put myself up to a high bar for this one. A little disappointed with this result. Adam put on a great race out in front, and I don't know what it is this season with this car, but after lap 5, my tires, I just feel like I'm looking in the mirror after that point.
When you managed to hold on for second, though, and defended well, puts you in still contention for the championship, of course, though you are more than 40 points back at this stage, nearly 50 back at this stage, actually. Have you got any hopes for that going into next week's race?
I think the only hope for that at this point would be a LMP3 car just sailing into Justin at top speed. So it's unlikely. Justin's been the class of the field all season, so hats off to him.
Anything can happen at Long Beach, so we'll see next week. Congratulations on second place tonight, Graham, and thanks very much for coming to chat to us.
Thanks, fellas. Have a good one.
Thanks very much. Graham Wildman there, second place in GT4.
I think we'll get to talk to one more driver today, and it's a driver who finishes on the podium yet again this season. Daniel Cranifest, welcome to the booth. It was a pretty quiet race for you, though. Third place, no real drama. Is that a good day for you?
Yeah, it was a good day. Lonely race. The only excitement was at the start. And yeah, with JP, I think there's a little contact there, but everybody got away. And I just tried to keep pace with Jason. Dayton's another story. Congrats to him and to Jason. They did a great job. But yeah, I think my pace is there with Dayton. I just can't get through traffic. I don't know what to do. I gotta go to school on traffic.
But next week, traffic is going to be even more difficult. We're going to Long Beach for the championship finale. You got concrete walls all the way around. Are you scared coming into next week? Are you confident coming into next week? How do you feel?
I'm confident. I'm feeling good in the car. I really like Long Beach. I had a good run at Hungaroring, threw away a good run there. Just a silly mistake in traffic, but I feel like I'm getting on top of the car, and I like Long Beach. And yeah, like you said, there's not going to be a peaceful moment there. It's going to be traffic from start to finish.
Well, Daniel, we'll let you get practicing. We'll let you figure out how to avoid those walls, and we'll see you next week to see how it goes.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Daniel Kranifus finishing off the podium in LMP3, and I think finishing off our interviews in the LMP3-GT4 Challenge this week, Ewan, but we are not done racing tonight. We're going to go to a sort of street circuit a little bit later in a couple of minutes, but next week in this series, we will crown a champion at a true street circuit at Long Beach, and suddenly it has become much, much more exciting because Jason Drescher is going to be competing for that championship against a number.
Exactly. And I reckon he's got a good chance as well. He absolutely has to win. He has to get the pole position or the fastest lap. If he can qualify first, then he sort of ticks one of those boxes and only has to worry about winning the race, which of course will be made slightly easier by the fact that he has just gained pole position in that hypothetical situation I've just thought of in my head. So it could well be his championship after all, and what a turnaround that would be after the season we've had.
Next week, same time, same place, Monday night at 8:30 here on RaceSpotTV. We're going to crown an LMP3 champion, and we're going to crown a GT4 champion. We're also going to crown a GTP and an LMP2 champion, but we've got one more round to go this week. This is round 8 of the GTP LMP2 series, and we say bonsoir to Montreal. It's a home race for Pat Pelshaw, who's been totally dominant this season, Ewan. It's a home race for the PRL, a French-Canadian league as a whole. And I think everybody's been looking forward to this one at the tail end of the season.
Yeah, they have. Not a circuit, as I said earlier, that really produces much multi-class racing or much prototype racing, really, for that matter. But it should still be an interesting one, stepping away from some of the more traditional circuits we've seen on our calendar. And, of course, we'll end up with Silverstone next week, much more traditional circuit, much wider, an easier one to manage. But we're here at Montreal for this round of the championship, and it will be a welcome homecoming, I think, for some of the drivers.
And who has been the dominateur of the season, as I think they may say in French? It's been who else but Pat Pelshaw. He has only lost twice. He lost week 1 to Daniel Harris. He lost week 2 last week after getting taken out in turn 1. A little bit of precision racing esports civil war. Boris Ovando, Nathan Bartley, and Pat Pelshaw went into turn 1. Only Boris Ovando came out with no trouble. So they've all been reviewing that, and I'm sure as a team, Nathan Bartley did apologize, and he's going to be back for redemption today, but Pat Pelshaw is going to be looking to return to his winning ways and maybe, just maybe, clinch the championship today, depending on how things go for the likes of Diaz and Williams and Menino. We can only wait and see. We can't do these calculations just yet. In the team's championship, we can absolutely do some calculations, though, because that is a 170-point lead for Precision Racing Esports over SRT. That is an insurmountable gap. They've officially clinched the championship. I think the only thing that could change that is if... No, there's nothing that could change that, unless they get disqualified after the season for cheating somehow, but that just won't happen. That's not something that will happen, so it's been clinched. Precision Racing Esports get to ride for the final couple of rounds and take that team's championship in the final round, I'm sure. But in LMP2, it is pretty close. It's been a season-long battle between Daniel Zeggers and Jack Hedgecox. Zeggers has won more races, but Hedgecox has just been around all season long. He's had some phenomenal recovery drives, and to keep that within 7 points, if he can finish ahead of Zeggers today, it is going to be very, very close in that championship finale next week.
Well, it might well be quite close anyway, to be honest. That 7 points between them is not a big margin, but when the two of them are quite so quick, and as we saw 1 week ago, they are quite a lot quicker than the rest of the field sometimes, so they've got to be particularly careful with regards to leaving too much sort of up to that last round. You don't want to leave too much of a gap if you Jack Hedgecock's in that situation. So I agree. I think he does need to finish ahead of Zeggers today, although it won't be over if he doesn't.
And I think the team's championship is reasonably close as well. We'll take a look at that in one moment.
Yeah, 16 points.
There we go.
SRT just ahead of Precision Racing Academy, and you could say Go In Racing have got an outside chance too.
Yeah, slight technical issues there for me. My tab refused to reopen, but we're back now. SRT, 16 points ahead of Precision Racing Academy, as Ewan said. But Goin Racing Ruby, that is the team that Jack Hedgecox races for. That's the team that the Goins are on. They've been very fast as well. So we're going to be following that for the rest of the season, or for these final 2 rounds of the season, I should say, because it is going to get very, very spicy through there. Speed Designs may be looking for their first win as well with Sorrentino and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Might be too late for them to fight in the team's championship. Might not be too late for them to fight for their first win, though. We can take you to qualifying now, though. About 5 minutes left on the clock. We'll ride on board with the 919 Pat Pelshaw. Practice Pelshaw, we call him all season long, because that's all he does in these cars. And he's looking for another pole at his home track. He's 4/10 over the field. He's going to be feeling pretty confident right now.
I mean, yeah, when you're enjoying the car as much as he seems to be, then why not? He's so much faster than the rest out here on this circuit for the moment. He's producing a very good drive indeed, but I can imagine it's a lot of fun to drive this car around all the circuits of the world, to be honest. Maybe less so around here because there isn't really the high-speed corners to really take advantage of this car's best attributes, but nevertheless, it's a good car to drive anyway, or anywhere this accurate. So Pat Pelshaw will be enjoying his afternoon and might well be on his way to another win tonight.
No DRS in these cars, despite the little boards there. You don't really need it. We've had good enough races without it so far this season, and it's solo qualifying in this series. Normally on the roadside in the Precision Racing League, it is open qualifying, all drivers on track at the same time, but when it's multi-class, they say, it's probably not best to do that. Pat Pelshaw crosses the line on his own, about a second slower than his fastest, but I believe he'll get one more to see what he can do. Jack Hedgecox on pole in LMP2 right now. That's exactly where he wants to be. He's only got 0.02 over Luke Wallace right now. He's looking for some more time.
Yeah, this is very close in the field now in LMP2. Hedgecox probably needs to improve to get away, and does. Great improvement from Jack Hedgecox on that lap. No, in fact. Was I reading the wrong one?
I think you may have been, but
nice.
I think he will get one more time around. Bradley Holly is back in the field. Good to see him after he was a little bit too scared to be racing at Aragon last week. He puts it up into P5. Excellent lap from Bradley Holly, and at least for right now, I believe that's going to be his best qualifying result of the season.
Well, top 5 is not to be ashamed of by any means. It's a good place to be, even though he is over a second off. Daniel Zegers goes to the front of LMP2 by 2 tenths as well. It's not exactly a close margin.
That is not what Jack Hedgecox wanted to see. He does not want to see Zegers starting to run away with this championship and pull a bigger margin into next week. But so far, that's the way it's gone. You see Lehman lighting up the timesheets a little bit purple. You saw Luke Wallace for purple for a moment. There's definitely still time left on this track. It is a place where commitment is rewarded. Luke Wallace, a little bit too committed. He brings it down pit lane. He's going to be done for the day. But does anybody have anything in LMP2 to challenge Zegers? See what Reagan Chandler can do on this lap. Maybe make it into the top 10.
He's going to struggle to do that. There he is, working away. Is he driving with a circular wheel in his prototype?
I believe so.
Well, must feel a bit odd, but I suppose you've only got what you've got. I used to do it, so, no complaints from me.
Hedgecox takes pole back, and it has been a dogfight between Hedgecox and Zegers, and I think that's the final blow. I don't know if Zegers has another lap. I think he is out on track, but I believe he's already used all 4 of his laps.
Well, that could be it then. Zegers has been displaced, but I think the thing that we can take away most from this qualifying session, that it is going to be between those 2 championship contenders, and it is going to be close between them as well, which is exactly what we want to see.
And Zegers didn't improve that time anyway, so it didn't really matter if he had another lap. He will stay where he is in P2. Nathan Mon, I believe, will get this lap counted. Is he going to be able to improve? He is by a couple thousandths of a second. Jumps up from P9 to P9. No improvement there, unfortunately, for him. Blake Ziti on track right now. This is his final lap that he's on right now. He's a very fast driver in qualifying. He started on pole before in some other series in the PRL. He's had some good qualifying results so far this season in this car. He definitely wants more than P8 right now. And if he can nail this final lap, he can definitely move his way up.
Maybe he could get himself to within a second of pole position here. That would get him up another couple of rows here in terms of LMP2. just under a second off of pole would get him onto the third row, as the 14 car makes a good improvement onto the second row.
Good stuff from Maltsev. He's been very strong so far today, very fast in practice, and very fast in qualifying as well. It's definitely a track that I think he's comfortable with. Here's Blake Ziti, though, through the final corners, hopping those curbs in the chicane. Can he improve on a 127.1? He crosses the line, 126.8. That is an improvement. It's not going to get him much in terms of position, though. It's going to jump him from P8 to P7. He gets ahead of his teammate Josh Chinsky. Adam McDonald's coming out of the final corner, though, in the Piston Pirates Porsche. He picks up a 2.5 seconds on that lap. Excellent recovery there from Mr. McDonald. And Reagan Chandler is going to stay where he is, right ahead of his brother Ryan.
Yep, so that looks like qualifying pretty much complete. The final seconds tick away here at Montreal. And we'll be ready to go racing very soon for 3/4 of an hour. It's a long race. And it'll be multi-class traffic once again. Prototype racing here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
And Pat Pelshaw was very excited coming into this week. He knew he was going to be strong here at his home race, and he's only delivered in qualifying 0.6 seconds over his teammate Nathan Bartley. And I think Bartley's going to be especially well behaved coming into turn 1 this week, which may just make it more comfortable for Pelshaw. Menino qualifies P3. He starts alongside Stephen Verity. Bradley Holly gets one of his best qualifying results ever in a GTP, P5. He starts alongside Aiden Young, who's looking to, maybe lead some laps like he did last week in that fiercely forward car. J.R. Williams and Eric Palacio make it all SRT on row number 4. Chris Walsh and Jeff Evans round out row number 5. Nathan Ray is a Piston Pirates driver, not a Whataback driver, despite the optical illusion on the shark fin. He'll start alongside Darian Roy for Night Blind Racing in a very, very easily differentiably colored car. Ryan Reeves is back in the field for Montreal. Eddie Layton is also back in the field after a few races off. And then the stalwarts, the Piston Pirates, Grigor Georgiev off of his best race into the PRL at Aragon. He starts alongside his teammate Adam McDonald at the back of the GTP field. Jack Hedgecock steals pole away from Daniel Zeggers, but it is going to be a dogfight between those two today. Remember how Zeggers won last week? Beat Hedgecock's on the brakes into pit lane at Aragon. It's a pretty important pit lane here too at Montreal. We'll see what those two can do on track. Wallace and Maltsev, good qualifyings for both of them on row number 2. Caleb Lehman and Frankie Arvello round out the first bunch. Then Blake Ziti and Joshua Chinsky, 2 more SRT drivers on row 4. Nathan Mon and Josh Goen round out the top 10. John Lee looking up to the top 10. He starts alongside Andrew Wood on that last row of the top dozen. Unlucky 13th went to the second Goen, Nicholas Goen. Sorrentino and Belair a little bit lower than they would have liked in 14th and 15th. Reagan Chandler wins the Inter-Chandler battle, only by a 10th though over his brother Ryan. Edward Vardanessian starts 18th in the number 25 Spike car. And that is the end of the field in LMP2. 18 cars there, 16 cars in GTP. That only adds up to 34 cars, but at Montreal, Ewan, that's going to get pretty tight.
It's going to be plenty for a multi-class race here at Montreal, especially for these GTPs who have to work their way through a lot of LMP2s at a circuit that it's going to be quite difficult to do that in parts around here. So it is going to be an interesting race and a very important one as well, with only 2 rounds to go in this championship.
Well, it's a home race for the PRL, and we prepare to say Antoine Bouche, Pat Pelshaw will take the green flag and lead us to racing at Montreal. Has to check up a little bit, though, to let Nathan Bartley close back up. Now we're officially green, and we'll see how they fan out into turn 1. Pelshaw does keep it under control. Bartley slots in behind, Menino behind. Look at Bradley Holly, though, trying to fight for P4 around the outside of the other Precision Racing Esports car. He's going to have to slot back in line behind Stephen Verity, actually. There's some trouble in the back of the field in GTP. Is there going to be some trouble with the LMP2s reaching them? I think everything's going to be okay. They're stratified one by one. Hedgecock's ahead of Zeggers, ahead of Maltsev, but there's big trouble in GTP. I think that was some big trouble. Even more trouble for Eddie Layton and for Darian Roy. It's all kicked off in the middle sector.
And let's see to the... Oh, there's cars in the wall in... so many in the wall in LMP2. What is going on there? So the LMP2s I thought were going to make it in the clear. The GTPs I thought had just made it through, but no. And there's damaged cars everywhere. There's spinning cars everywhere. So the top 5 have gotten away with this in LMP2, but the rest have not.
There's some grass tracks there that are just an absolute mystery. We'll have to wait and see where those came from. But total drama on lap 1. And the battle for second is now kicking off. Side by side, Nathan Bartley versus Dave Menino. Who's going to fancy their chances? Who's going to be later on the brakes into the chicane? Can you make it work 2x2 on lap 1? Dave Menino says probably not worth it to do that right now. Nathan Bartley hangs on, but Menino's back in the draft down the front straight.
Should be able to come back at him immediately here on the way in towards turn 1. No, decides not to. Decides to just bide a bit of time now. But goodness me, what a dramatic start there in GTP. Already cars down to pit lane. Chris Walsh, Darian Roy and Eddie Layton. The three have had to go into pit lane, and there's been some spins further back for LMP2 cars and all sorts as well.
And we will take you back to the carousel of entertainment and show you everything that happened on lap 1, but it is so large that the replay is still spooling. So we will get you to everything that happened there, but gotta wait a moment for everything to keep loading there, though. In LMP2, it's not been the start that Daniel Zeggers wanted. He's 8/10 behind Jack Hedgecox now. He needs to stay closer and make sure he's still within a chance of maybe doing the same thing he did last week and making the jump in the pits.
This is the problem. There's also a GTP right in front of Jack Hedgecox here, which is giving him slipstream on the straights, but surely it's going to present him with a problem in the corners soon.
Here comes Jack trying to make it happen, but Chris Walsh was that first driver we saw wrecking. That's not a Precision Racing Esports car. It's Chris Walsh, and everybody comes through there. That was Palacio, Darian Roy, and a whole host of others. Big crash. Eddie Layton was involved as well. That was 5 GTP cars involved there. 4 of them already down pit lane with very, very heavy damage or totally out of the race. Here's another look.
Quite a few of them seem to be walking wounded out as a result of this, and there's just nowhere to go. It's far too narrow, and far too many cars there as well were trying to work their way through far too quickly. So it was all a bit of a mess through there at the tightest point on the circuit.
Well, now things get very tough for Bradley Holly. He's actually had a good start, got by Stephen Verity on lap 1. He's up into P4, but this is an unfamiliar position for Bradley Holly in a GTP car. He's not used to being this high up in the field, and he's got a driver who has led laps in this series, who has been on the podium, looking fiercely forward and looking directly behind him.
It's very close for nearly 5 minutes into the race, Jabaz. Everybody's having to look forwards and backwards here. Up on the curve they go through the chicane. It's almost all accurate here. This is a view on board in LMP2. What are they hitting on the inside there?
What happened through there? That was Caleb Lehman ahead of Chinsky, his teammate, and the 2 teammates seemingly making an identical mistake in the same corner. That looked bizarre.
It did. I don't know what they were hitting there, because I didn't think they were hitting the inside wall, but maybe they were. I guess it would be easy to follow someone doing that.
We'll have to break out all the angles there to get a forensic analysis going, because that is absolutely bizarre, and it wasn't just them. Edvard Anessian got into some trouble on lap 1, and I think there may have been one other driver who got into some trouble. Ryan Reeves is down pit lane as well. Montreal bites. It's not technically a street circuit, as it's not really streets, but it's got walls that are very, very close. It's a street circuit and everything but an official name.
Yeah, so it's not exactly like everyone's been taken by surprise by what we've seen so far today, I suppose, but that doesn't mean that you can avoid incidents all the time.
Bradley Holly is up onto the podium in GTP. Sorry, Ewan, but I just saw Dave Menino from 3rd place in class has fallen down the order. Bradley Holly's taken over the podium, and Menino is back to P8, only ahead of his teammate J.R. Williams.
Well, I didn't think he actually went for a spin, just thought he lost places, but no, that's a half spin for him. Had to get that back going again, but just getting caught up on the curb, really, on that inside of turn 6. It's a bit of an awkward curve, really, and you don't really want to use it.
Now we're in for some teammate warfare. Does JR fancy a fight, or does he say, Dave, you're probably faster, I'll let you look forward? He's got Nathan Ray ahead of him, he's got Jeff Evans ahead of him, who are not too far away. I think Dave's recovery drive is going to start already. As we ride on board with Jeff Evans, you're only going to see that white SRT car get even closer down this front straight.
Yeah, looks like it. As we look behind, Bradley Holly gets overtaken here by Stephen Varady into turn 1. So Bradley Holly loses out on a position. That's 2 positions in this last lap by the looks of it that he's lost out on, because he was on the podium briefly.
Yep, his podium was short-lived, unfortunately. I'm sure he'll be happy about the couple seconds he got to spend on the podium, but it might not go his way unless there's some more trouble. He's going to be riding on his own laurels, though, Ewan, because at Daytona last week in the Grand National Series in the PRL, Bradley Holly ticked off his 120th win in the PRL, which is just kind of crazy to say that, and also say that he's fighting for his life trying to stay on the podium.
Yeah, exactly. It's a whole different type of racing, though, isn't it? So while he can do well in one, it'd be very impressive to be able to be at the same level in the other because of the differences that there are, but he's still running inside the top 5. This is a very good result as far as he's concerned.
It's Belair through the third chicane, and talk about a savvy move there with everybody checking up. I think there was a little bit of trouble from one of the Precision Racing Esports LMP2s. I think that may have been Andrew Wood. Michael Belair says, I'll take all those, thank you very much.
Did very well to do so as well. Loves to see someone capitalising on issues up in front and just avoiding them all and taking lots of places in one. That's exactly what that was there. Now we're looking at the description of this. Pat Pelshaw is not that far away from the back end of the LMP2s and lapping a lot of drivers so far today.
We have Mark Kalin in the chat saying, let's go Whataback boys, cheering on his teammate Jeff Evans, but you'll notice one critical issue with that statement, Ewan. Mark Kalin is not on track right now. He's in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, not sure. Well, I presumed he wouldn't be racing actually, but
I know he owns Montreal. I know he's raced here before.
Owns Montreal. Oh right, you mean
he owns the track.
You mean in iRacing, not in real life.
That would be news. I don't know if I would trust Mark Kalin running a city, but he does own the track.
I thought you meant he owned the whole circuit.
It's
or
possible.
Indeed the whole city. But no, I don't think that is the case. Yeah, we unfortunately haven't got him out here tonight, but we've got plenty of drivers out. We actually got more for this race than the first one, which is somewhat surprising given the different classes of car selectable in either. But just under 10 minutes in, battle's not going away just outside the top 5. Inside, the gap's getting rather large, but outside the trains are still happening, as you can see.
Bradley Holly's actually fighting back. You saw him take a peek to the inside of Stephen Verity into the chicane, thought better of it, thought that was going to end in disaster, and will look for another opportunity to do it. But this is getting very exciting. It is going to be a whole train, though, because from Verity all the way back to J.R. Williams and P9, all of those drivers are separated by maybe about 3 seconds right now, and it's going to get even shorter, I think.
Yeah, looks like it. All Acuras in this group, by the way. A little bit disappointing to see so many of the same manufacturer this season in iRacing, to be honest, but this is what happens from time to time. It'll be a different manufacturer next season, I would imagine, that takes the real precedence as the most selected car, and that's this season round is the Acura by any means, but they're all so close. The fact they're in the same car, I guess, keeps the racing quite as close as this.
This is the only F1 track I've ever been to for a race. I was actually right there on the right side of the hairpin. There is actually a grandstand there now in real life. The iRacing scan isn't quite up to date, but I'm a pretty big fan of this place. It's good for racing despite how tight it is. Even in F1, which is the most difficult series to have a good race on a track, they still managed to pull it off.
Yes, it's decent. I mean, it doesn't have the sort of... somehow it's managed to get... oh, that was a big slide. Somehow it managed to get some sort of technical challenge while not having any high-speed corners, which is quite impressive, really. But also just do the good racing at the same time. Dave Menino gets down the inside into turn 1 here and begins to recover some of those lost places from a few moments ago.
And I had a very big optical illusion for the entirety of this season. If you look at the shark fin on Nathan Ray's car, Ewan, doesn't that look a little bit like the Whataback logo on the shark fin of Jeff Evans' car? Like, if we get a good look on Nathan Ray's car here as he's turning right, look at that, look at the like the Honda logo and the Acura, and now if we can go up to Jeff Evans and look at the shark fin on that car, they look so similar, and I thought Nathan Ray was a Whataback driver this whole time until now.
I'm not sure they look very similar, apart from, unless I'm not...
I think they do.
Okay, well...
And I got a message last week from Jeff Evans, and he was like, Nathan Ray's not a Whataback driver. We don't know that guy other than racing against him.
Well, that's always an awkward moment. Yeah, I don't know. I can't see the similarity personally, but maybe.
But it may be the start of a beautiful relationship. Nathan Ray, if you want, you may already accidentally have a home at Whataback if you guys want to team up next season, potentially.
It's not a great way to advertise your team, though. If you just make your cars look like ours, then we might accept you. It's probably not a good message to send out to people, because then you'll just get loads of people in your livery.
I think the Piston Pirates are probably a fun-loving enough team that they'd be willing to do some collaboration. It is a beautiful livery. It's slightly different on Nathan Ray's car. He's got a little bit more shininess, a little bit more spec mappage than on the Porsches of McDonald and Georgiev, but I like it. It's golfy. It's classic.
There's some not bad liveries up front here. I do like that fact in iRacing, of course. You can sort of do what you want with the liveries, whereas we see sort of the same ones year in, year out in real life.
I remember your livery when you raced in the PRL. Edward Vardanessian getting into a little bit of trouble, holding up Bradley Holly, and that's going to allow Jeff Evans to try and take advantage of his teammate. These guys not afraid to race each other. They do it all the time in the Grand National Series. Evans backs out of it, though, and puts him under pressure, but look at Nathan Ray! Almost going bowling, almost taking Dave Menino with him, but that was inches away from disaster.
That was so close to a big disaster. There would have been a bit of before that, in that there's going to be contact here. There's the bit of contact that very nearly sent Ray bowling, and quite a bizarre spin for Gerald Williams after the fact.
Oh, that was bizarre. You can see it off on the side of your screen. I think he just totally locked it up on the grass, but Nathan Ray, I don't know if he actually hit anything. He may have hit the inside wall, but there was no contact with the rear end of Dave Menino's car by probably an inch. Look at that. That's the rear end of Nathan Ray's car.
So close to contact, and very nearly wiping out a load of drivers right in front of him.
I bet he would have been saying, Dave Menino, no.
You've been waiting to get that one in for a while. Oh, this is a bit of grass on the way into turn 6. Not what you need at all for Adam McDonald. Oh, he scrapes the wall as well.
A little kissy of the wall. The pristine Piston Pirates Porsche is not so perfect anymore. Jeff Evans trying to hold off Dave Menino. He has no fear in his eyes, even after the scary moment of the last lap. He's still fighting for this. Menino's looking for a way through. He's not going to find it, though. Too short of a straight and no DRS like the F1 cars here. Peeks it to the inside. The door's not open yet, though.
It's very close. They both broke particularly late in towards turn 7 there, or turn 8, I should say. And in the end, they stay in the positions they were on the way in. Dave Menino will look for a better run out. We'll see if he can get it. Down to hairpin. No positional changes back here either, although there is a moment too late on the brakes from Nathan Ray, and Gerald Williams goes straight through.
One of the his teammates getting by. Grigor Georgiev gets by first. Adam McDonald is going to come by now. It has not gone his way so far today. Falls out of the top 10.
I should have seen that coming, but I didn't, so there we are. There's another one for you. Dave Menino still looking for his way through on Jeff Evans, who thankfully is slightly less easy to punt.
Yeah, it is hard. It's hard when you have 2 syllables, just Evans. But, you know, some drivers are good, some drivers are bad. It all evens out in the end.
I really thought you were going to be stumped there, but no. So,
I didn't even know that one was coming. That one was actually an on-the-fly one.
No, well, anyway, I'm not going to challenge you any further, because this is descending to chaos otherwise.
Yeah, it is about 3 a.m. for you. I don't think that's very conducive to improv.
No. No. I can't do it at the best of times. Never mind.
Well,
now.
You know what, Ewan? I'll just say I'll go win with this one.
Right, good. He's just headed Blake GT for 6th position. There will be a positional change back here. Nathan Ray looking for some of these positions to be recovered again, and he'll be given that one by McDonald's, unsurprisingly.
A little bit of team orders, a little bit of just teammates helping each other. You love to see it there. Good stuff there as McDonald falls back to P10. This isn't over yet, though. Jeff Evans and Dave Menino. Menino's closed this back up. Evans is falling back. They're side by side for 4th, actually, though, in LMP2. We haven't given these guys much love. It's been so chaotic in GTP that we do have to look back a little bit in LMP2 because these guys are having a pretty solid race here for P4. This is the closest battle on the track right now.
Closest battle inside the top 5 by a little margin, as Aidan Young is being caught by Stephen Varady at the moment inside the top 5 of the overall race. But certainly in LMP2, these guys running each other very close indeed. Down the back straight, no opportunity into the butter stop, I wouldn't imagine, where we've seen a spin in LMP2.
Ryan Chandler in the 75 doesn't actually get into the wall of champions, gets into the opposite wall. Not ideal either way. Damaged car, has to tow it back down to pit lane because he was after pit entry. I think we'll see him get back out there and try and recover though. Just will be a little bit more damaged. Back here to P6 with Josh Goen and Blake Zeedy still going at it. Great exit from Zeedy out of the final corner, but not close enough into turn 1 to go for a move just yet. He's still going to be putting the pressure on. This is it's very close to a home race for Blake Zeedy, as he's racing from Long Island, if I'm not mistaken. So New York, Quebec, they're borders, so it could be a little bit of a home race for him. It's especially a home race for Pat Pelshaw, as he's actually French-Canadian, and he's actually bringing it down pit lane for the first and only time.
Yep, and he's got just to the back of the LMP2s, basically, and decided that now is the time to go into pit lane. It's probably the best idea as well, because if you don't come in at this stage, then effectively you're having to go through the same LMP2 traffic twice. And additionally, if you do it in this phase of the race, you might be able to jump some of them with a pit stop and not overtake some of them at all, which really helps you. But not that Pat Pelshaw really needs the help. He's quick enough on speed anyway.
Yeah, if anything, he needs a little bit of a nerf. I think if he clinches the championship this week, we should tell him that he has to start from the back at Silverstone next week and see how far forward he can get.
He'll be able to go quite far forward, but I think last week at Aragon showed, didn't it, that he can't recover from absolutely everything.
Oh, Blake Zeedy peeked to the inside. A little bit of an optical illusion, though. Wasn't quite as close as he would have liked. He's going to get the exit, though. Goen's been pretty fast in a straight line, though. Is he going to be able to hold off Zeedy into turn 1? Blake, using the full effect of the draft, does get a nose to the inside. Not late enough on the brakes, though, to make it happen, and Goen closes the door. Zeedy almost gets into the back of him, but they're going to be surviving for yet another lap. And on the topic of Pat Pelshaw, he likely will actually clinch the championship today. Second place in the championship, Michael Diaz, not here tonight. So that's going to be a big loss for him. He already had his drop week last week in round 7. J.R. Williams is 70 points behind Pat Pelshaw already. Pat has clinched the championship right now.
Well, right now, yeah, he can't afford to lose at too many places, otherwise it will be still alive. But, well, actually, is that even true? No, because he's got
this would be his drop week. If he happens to crash, this would be his drop week.
Yeah,
but
exactly. So
I think he will be okay.
Points.
So yeah, it's basically a victory lap for him right now. This is not what he wants, though. He is in inter-GTP traffic, or at least he was. Got by Nathan Ray, got by Grigor Georgiev. They both missed the corner, and Pelshaw gets to go through to clean air.
Yeah, he's going to enjoy that now. You see, he's got the fastest lap, and he's continually the fastest out there on the circuit, to be honest. Really flying out on the road. Clean air in front of him as well. It is slightly bizarre how he's playing the strategy so sort of perfected and well, even though he really doesn't need to.
And he's another driver who I hope we do get to see in the All-Star Invitational, because he's been almost unbeatable this season. But what happens when you put him in some alternate machinery with, you know, Justin Ream, and you put his LMP2 drivers in the same type of car? What happens there? I really hope we get to see that combination. That'll be a lot of fun, because it'll be a little bit like this battle in LMP2 where it's drivers in the same car. It's a little bit like this battle in GTP where it's 2 Acuras, same car, same machinery, just doing battle on track.
It's very good to see. Jeff Evans will be on the defensive again here. Menino to the outside, such a squeeze there on the way in, but he'll head round the outside through the first part to get the inside at the second, and surely Jeff Evans will have to concede. Finally does for that third position. So, well, he's not quite going away yet. Now he'll have to on the outside of turn 3. So Dave Menino does work his way through.
Tried to use his oval skills to make it work the long way around, but this is not a banked track in any meaningful place. So we had to slot back in line. A little bit of teammates potentially helping each other here. Dave Menino is going to get through on the first of the SRT cars. Can't see exactly who that is. I believe that might be the damaged Joshua Chinsky, and Evans is going to get held behind him. It's actually the 42. But Jeff Evans not quite so lucky with Caleb Lehman as the SRT teammate Dave Menino was. Here's another SRT car. Blake Ziti, though, looking for another shot into turn 1.
And this time he has got the inside at turn 1, and though, as we just saw, you maybe want the outside here. Maybe not like that, though. That was all a big mess in towards turn 1 and 2. Just going, goes across the corner. Sorrentino is probably going to get them both.
And he's got a slowdown. Goen got a slowdown for cutting the course there. And I don't know what happened to Blake Ziti. I don't know how he ended up that far to the left of the track after making the corner. But a messy couple of corners for Ziti and Goen. Doug Sorrentino gets to take full advantage. He's up 3 spots. I think he got by Luke Wallace just as he did that as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is harsh on Josh Goen, because look at that, Blake Ziti there just pushes him off through turn 1, ends up very wide through turn 2, and so a couple of drivers get past him, but most of all, 3 drivers get past Josh Goen, even though he was the one forced off the road.
Doug Sorrentino has been having an excellent day, though. If I'm not mistaken, he started 13th or 14th or even 15th. I might need to see the data on our screen here to really know. There it is, started 14th. He is up 8 spots from his starting position at a track that's almost a street circuit. That's a pretty good run forward so far.
It is a good run. It's always difficult, stereotypically, of course, to work your way forward at this circuit. I don't think it quite applies as much to Montreal as some other street circuits, but nevertheless, it certainly does a little bit and doesn't take away from the achievement as Nathan Bartley finds his way into 8th position now.
Aiden Young and Stephen Verity. This is a battle for position, and this is potentially a battle for the podium, I believe, once everything cycles out. Pat Pelshaw's already made his pit stop. Nathan Bartley's already made his pit stop. Nobody in the top 5 has. So this is the battle for 3rd. Aiden Young gets to lead some laps for the 2nd week in a row. They're not going to be race-winning potential laps, but they are going to be laps led all the same, and he will potentially get to take a podium this week, just like he did at Aragon last week. But back with these guys, they're not done, because Blake Ziti was hungry enough to get by Goen. He's going to be just as hungry to get by Sorrentino, who he knows he's faster than. He was ahead of him before that little oopsie, and now he's got to find a way to get by again.
Well, I think he's just got on the curb there a little bit. Might even be under pressure on the way down towards the hairpin here. That's John Leedy to the outside. Quite late on the brakes, but doesn't really go anywhere here. And Blake Ziti will hold on to 7th position in the field. So I think he's going to be in a bit of trouble after the race, to be honest, Ziti, because the way he barreled down the inside there of Josh Goen might be looked at, or probably should be.
Well, the steward's review, I think, will definitely be opened on that one. Frankie Arvello has brought it down pit lane, and look who's going to follow him in. Josh Goen says, I'm going to take my losses. I had a bad lap after getting bowled out of the way. Might as well use up all of my losses and bring it down pit lane this time.
Yeah, looks like it. So he has brought it down, and so that will promote everyone briefly. We'll see how the pit stops work out, though. We're only just over halfway through this race now. Nathan Bartley down the inside of Nathan Ray. He really is moving up places here, is Bartley. As the driver in the background there, who he just overtook there, Bartley. And there is another position up to 7th place now. So Georgiev last lap, Nathan Ray on this lap, and Bartley is continuing to move forward.
Ray actually did a pretty good job of fighting back there. If he really wanted to, he probably could have run that side by side, but Ray has yet to pit. Bartley has. Probably wouldn't be the smartest thing in the world, other than getting us some exciting TV stuff. But you see that Pat Pelshaw and Nathan Bartley have both been very unique in their pit stops. There's trouble ahead, though, as Pat Pelshaw, that is the race leader, theoretically, spinning around, and that was some trouble with some LMP2 traffic, and there may be damage on the 919. There it is, Pat Pelshaw's back down pit lane.
Wow, so big moment in this race. He's clearly got damage. Look at it, you can see it there immediately. He's got, oh dear, that suspension's all over the place, and he goes straight into the wall again because the suspension's so broken. I'm afraid, I don't think he gave space to the LMP2 that was rejoining there, and there's, there it is.
Oh.
I think it was rejoining from the pit lane, wasn't it? And he just didn't
that was Josh Goen. That was Josh Goen coming out of the pits, and Pat Pelshaw not clear of him. The dominant and race leader-elect is not going to win his home race today. You can still see him on pit lane a little bit further forward. Aiden Young and Stephen Verity are going to bring it down pit lane this time. And now the question is, where do they blend with Nathan Bartley? Could they actually play a role in this potential race win now?
Yeah, they could well do. It's wide open, isn't it, really, for this race win all of a sudden. With just under 19 minutes remaining, this race all of a sudden has gotten very interesting indeed. Bizarrely, though, Pat Pelshaw is still going to win the championship, even while in this position. I don't see what the driver of an LMP2 can do in that situation, really.
Yep, that was on board with Josh Goen. And that's going to be disappointing, I think, for both of them. It's going to be disappointing for Josh because he had nothing he could do there, and it's going to be disappointing for Pat because he was in total control of this race. He was looking forward to this week so much as his home race. Everything had gone right until then. But that just goes to show you, in multi-class racing, you can never be complacent. You never have the race in the bag because there's always some little thing that can go wrong and totally end your day.
Yeah, it's these fine margins that settle and unsettle you as we got into the pit lane from the lead. Was that Dave Menino who's in the lead? Pelshaw. Oh, it's still Pelshaw, excuse me. So I thought we were getting the leaders sorting themselves out, but we're a long way off from that. So Pat Pelshaw is going to drop a long way back here, and he's going to be well out of contention.
And if you're, whoa, big hit in the wall for Blake Ziti. That's potentially going to be some bent suspension there on the number 50. But if you're wondering how things blended with Bartley and Verity and Young, they did not blend very closely. Nathan Bartley currently boasts almost a 15-second lead over second place, over third place as well. Things are looking very good for Bartley to win his first race potentially, but you know how things can come undone quickly. Things have come very undone for two LMP2 cars. Nathan Mon on the left and Josh Goen has gotten into even more trouble. He's the other LMP2 that's noseless on the front straight.
Oh, he's can't steer either by the looks of things. This is the view. Difficult to avoid in the end there for both of them. And in the end, that's a lot of suspension damage as well. And, well, still barreling along, despite the fact that there's no front end. This race has descended into chaos somewhat, to be honest. There's a lot of damaged race cars going around for whatever reason right now.
Oh, that's not Nathan Bartley. That's Bradley Holly, actually, getting a little bit of target fixation on Nathan Mon. He's going to keep going, though, with no trouble there. But wow, what's going to be the next thing? Can Nathan Bartley actually rest a little bit now that he's in comfortable control? Or is he going to be thinking about what happened to his teammate now? And is he going to be on total watch for the rest of the day to make sure he doesn't get into any issues himself? J.R. Williams brings it down pit lane. That's going to promote Jeff Evans up into second for now. But what's going to be the next thing to happen here? Bradley Holly is going to be in the fight for the top 5, but will he survive the next 16 minutes?
Well, you got to hope so. That's a very zoomed out POV for a prototype, don't you think? There's a very small window in which you can see through there. To be honest, I would not.
I don't even think he's in VR.
You do?
No, he's in just R, reality.
He's just in reality. Yeah, that's a very small window to look through because the prototypes are not great on the vision at the best of times, are they? But look at that small window he's looking through. That's worse than you have it in real life.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 120 wins, I guess it works for him, but yeah, that's tough.
That's very difficult. I personally prefer to zoom yourself in so much you can barely see the steering wheel anymore.
Jack Hedgecox has brought it down pit lane from the lead in LMP2. We haven't talked much about these two lead guys because Daniel Zegers and Jack Hedgecox, despite all the trouble on track, they have run into no trouble at all. Hedgecox is going to try and get himself into a little bit more trouble, though, as he falls down the order and may have to deal with some traffic, while Daniel Zegers is still in clean air.
Quite remarkable, really, how those two have been able to stay out of trouble so well, considering the chaos that has been going on in this race elsewhere. It's really quite astonishing. 14.9 seconds in the box from Hedgecox. That's pretty much on the money compared to where he should be, although maybe slightly on the long side, and maybe Zegers will be feeling that he can gain a couple of seconds in these pit stops.
See what he can do. Menino's pit stop is finally over, but This is a battle for position. Doug Sorrentino is looking in his rear view mirror right now at Blake Ziti, who has recovered from a little bit of contact with the wall, a little bit of contact with Josh Goen. He will not give up, and he's going to continue this fight for as long as he can.
Yeah, he will. It's a good fight for 4th position by the looks of things in LMP2. And so could provide a real issue for Adam Hedgecox here unless there is pit stops, and he's going to be hoping that there are many on the way down into pit lane this time. Ziti is one of them, but the other 2 stay out, so there may well have to be overtakes here from Jack Hedgecox on the circuit, which is not a good thing for him.
We've got some wide open pit windows here, which I feel like isn't usually the case. I wonder if that just comes from the street circuit-like nature with a lot of slow speed corners. This has been as wide of a pit window as we've seen basically ever. You had drivers come in 10 laps ago like Nathan Bartley, or you've got drivers like Jeff Evans who are just waiting to come in until now.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe the street circuit nature, as you touch on there, plays into it slightly, because they might be burning a little bit less fuel, and as a result, maybe the pit window is a little bit wider. So Nathan Bartley is going to take the lead now briefly. And, well, I'll say briefly, how brief is it going to be? Is it going to be a 13 minutes sort of brief? Well, maybe. The gap quite large, actually. Larger than I was expecting.
Now, this is a tough position for Nathan Bartley. He's in the lead for the first time in his PRL career, at least in a meaningful way, looking to win at the end of the race. I believe he was on pole in the... Oh, big spin for John Leedy ahead of Doug Sorrentino. Hedgecox has to avoid that around the outside. And he definitely lost a couple of tenths there. Could that be the difference with the blend with Zegers?
Exactly, that's the big moment here. And it is going to be sort of, there's the spin, fairly innocuous one at slow speed in these prototypes, which is where you're at the most dangerous, I suppose. But Hedgecox is now going to get to second as a result of pit stop for Mortsev up in front. So the field pretty much sorted, but Zegers still with a pit stop to make. And that's going to be the important moment for not only this race, but maybe a championship as well on a day that Hedgecox really needs to beat his rival.
And as I was saying about Nathan Bartley, a couple seasons ago, he actually started on pole at Long Beach in the GT3 Sprint Series, and that was very, very impressive. That was him really showing up some very, very strong drivers. He's been strong this season in GTP as well. Hasn't been able to show up his teammate Pat Pelshaw in a full race distance. Now he is able to, but it's still his first win that he's fighting for, and that is a very, very pressure-ridden scenario. And he's got to hold on to some extra pressure if he wants to win this race.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of pressure in these final 11 minutes here for whoever's going to come out on top. It's going to be a difficult ending to this one for everybody. To what's been a difficult race, to be fair. It's been chaos at times, but I think now we're down a little bit on numbers. Maybe there's slightly less busyness out on the circuit with about 2/3 of the field left is helping.
Daniel Zegers won last week at Aragon after outbreaking Jack Hedgecox coming onto pit lane. Now it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be Jack Hedgecox coming in 2 laps ago. Zegers trying to beat him on the blend on this lap. Pit stop times have been anywhere from about 13 to 14 seconds. Hedgecox coming through the final 2 corners now, hopping the curbs. Zegers leaves his pit stall after 13 seconds. That's a 1.3 second faster stop than Hedgecox, but they're going to blend into turn 1. Hedgecox has to take turn 1. Zegers is going to be going in a straight line. It's not going to be close though. Jack Hedgecox takes the lead back and comfortably controls this race in LMP2 now.
And roughly is going to halve the championship margin as well, so we are going to get a fantastic finale, it looks like, to this series at Silverstone in 1 week's time, especially in LMP2. With GTP being settled here today, it's anything but in LMP2 in what's been a very close race, and to be honest, those behind are not too far away either. Luke Wallace is in 3rd place, only a couple seconds further back, and he's made a stop also. It's a close race in LMP2.
And right now, Jack Hedgecox does have the fastest lap in LMP2, so he's going to get the full 57 points for this win. Zegers will get 52 points for finishing second right now. Do a little bit of math, subtract 5 from the current championship margin, 2 points will separate Jack Hedgecox and Daniel Zegers in the final round as we speak, or if the race finishes in the way that it is right now. That is 1 position difference. That's the difference between winning and finishing second, or finishing second and the other driver winning. That is the most exciting scenario we could ask for.
Exactly, that is, and especially if they're fighting for the win in 1 week's time. So that's going to be very, very exciting indeed. Also, battles still to be settled here in GTP as Jeff Evans is holding off from JR Williams. Bit of prototype action up in front for them to work through, and Evans will be able to hang on into the final chicane here. Williams has just got to stay with him best he can through the final chicane on this lap.
And Bradley Holly came in before both of these guys and currently sits 4 seconds behind them. So if you're wondering how his pit strategy went, the answer is not very well. He's been jumped by Jeff and by JR. And now Jeff is going to fight for his first top 5 of the season. He's been reasonably strong this season. He's fought for top 10s all year long, but he has not had a podium yet, and he almost just lost, or he hasn't had a top 5 yet, and he almost just lost it, clearing the nose of one of the Speed Designs cars. Those were bumpers and body panels interlocked through turn 1. That could not have been closer.
Well, yeah, to be honest, I thought they were touching, to be honest with you, but clearly not. And they got away with it in the end, but that was closer than you'd really want to be on an ideal day in towards turn number 1 and 2. It has just extended this gap though for 5th position. Jeff Evans has sort of taken advantage of all of that and put some time into Williams.
These are two very different drivers. JR Williams has only been dedicated to road courses for, I believe, all the time he's been here with the Precision Racing League. Jeff Evans was focused on ovals for the longest time, but he's also tried his craft in the MX-5s and the GR86s, in GT3, in GTP now. He's been trying everything, and he's certainly been improving that way. The battle for seconds heating up, though. Remember Dave Menino on his recovery drive. He could have potentially been in the battle for the win here, if not for his early troubles. He's trying to make up for it, though, and at least get second if he can get by Stephen Verity before this race is up.
You'd imagine he will be able to, the way that he's closed up to the back of this number 4 car. Bit of a strange line from him off of turn 2, but whatever works. Menino will be there in a couple of laps, but will he run out of time? I think that's the only problem for him here. I think he's got the speed and he's got the ability to make this pass, but can he do it within 7 minutes? That's a bit of a time thing, really, and I'm not entirely convinced, but we'll wait and see. Probably 4 laps to go at the line.
If I'm not mistaken, Stephen Verity is also a New York driver, so almost a home race. We did go to Watkins Glen earlier this season, so that was a real home race for him, but Montreal, not that much further away than Watkins Glen. Only a few more hours up to the north, cross the border, and you're there. So maybe he'll be holding on to this as a second home race if we can finish on the podium.
Maybe. I'm not willing to add any comments on American geography.
We'll get you to study up on your East Coast geography before next season.
I need to study up on all of it, to be honest. In America, it's woeful. But
I mean, you can ask me where Sheffield is, and I would have no idea.
Well, you've been to England.
It's somewhere in the north, but is it like the northeast, the northwest?
Oh.
I don't know.
Dear me. Well, oh dear, that was close. Dave Menino there very nearly causes an accident of his own as he never very nearly hits Verity. By the way, I was wrong previously. I think it'll be 5 to go, actually, including the one they're on at the moment. It's a bit shorter of a lap, actually. And they cross the line with about 6 minutes to go. Nathan Bartley just over that, so yeah, should be 5 to go.
I'll let you take the math. I'll take the American geography, and I'll let you take the math. That's a good deal.
Fine. Yeah, that's fine. I think that'll be correct. Anyway, it seems a bit weird to say that with 6 minutes to go for 5 laps, but I think Bartley's going to cross the line with minimal time remaining on the last lap, but doesn't quite have enough time in hand to slow down and make it the last lap.
I do wonder what JR stands for in JR Williams. I imagine one of them is not Jeffrey, because that would be strange. It's probably like John Robert or something, but I will have to ask him, because when you have Jeff versus JR, who knows what kind of varieties you could have there. But JR is very close into the hairpin rather, not quite the final corner, and he's going to try and use the full effect of the draft here. Evans has a solid exit though, pulls 3/10 over JR, and I wonder if that's just going to be a little bit too far yet again for Williams to actually do anything into the chicane.
It needs the slipstream to be a lot more powerful than that if he wants to go for a move. Early on the brakes though, trying to get the best exit really. You don't want to get caught right up behind someone and compromise your run off the turn. That's exactly what Jeff Evans did to great effect there, actually. So JR Williams has to spend another lap following, and this is the kind of stage we've got to in this race now. They're getting comfortable with the traffic. There's a little bit less in terms of the traffic, and the leading cars of groups are starting to get comfortable with drivers behind them and starting to defend a little bit better now.
An LMP2 car joining the train, trying to be part of the fun if they can. I think you're gonna have a tough time joining that train though. 4 seconds of lap time separates GTP and LMP2 here, so it's a lot closer than it is at some other tracks. It gets very frustrating when the pace difference isn't actually that much, but I don't think there's going to be any more of that for these two guys for a little while up the road. Aiden Young is another GTP car. He's not going to be a problem. It will be GTP v GTP with no traffic in the near future. Let's see what kind of exit Williams can pull off through the hairpin this time. Williams has been better every single time, and yet again, he pulls just a slightly big enough gap to hold off Williams down the back straight.
And it's just enough. It's just about quick enough in the right places to hang on to this position, and so far he's just not been threatened. And I'll reiterate again, this is the somewhat problem at Montreal. It's that sometimes he can find it very, very difficult to overtake because of the way that the corners are laid out and the way that the final chicane especially is laid out. Makes it very tricky. So while we saw lots of overtaking early on in this one, it's not quite the same anymore.
Blake Ziti through the third chicane, loops it around, does a good job of not getting into the wall though, smokes up the tires, keeps going, and is still P6. So despite some of his issues today, I don't think he's actually lost a position. I think he's actually one spot up from where he started.
Not entirely sure. This is into the final hairpin, excuse me. That was all locked up late on the brakes and straight down the wall.
That's one of the tricky parts about these prototypes. The brakes are so finicky that one mistake on the brakes can just totally lock up the rear end and spit you into the wall. That was a mistake from Evans out of the third chicane, and JR Williams was not able to take advantage. He needs to take advantage of those mistakes, and he did not get the opportunity to do so.
And so a couple of laps to go now, and yeah, I believe it'll be 2, and so we're running out of time, really, to see these positions change. Even Dave Menino is going to run out of time, I reckon, in that battle for second place. So everyone's running out of time, really, at the end of this one. Oh, that was a big slide for JR Williams. That might be it.
That might be it for him. We'll see what he can do in the rest of the lap. He gets some style points for that drift. That was very good stuff, and that shows that he's absolutely pushing. This is not a battle for the podium. This is a battle for P8, despite the similarly colored cars. John Leedy looking to get by the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air through the final chicane. Bel-Air hops the first curb and does hold a insurmountable gap on the front straight for Leedy to get by. Leedy's been very late in the brakes, though. He's been very fast in the high downforce sections of this track, and I don't think that battle's going to be over until the final lap. Williams is back behind Evans, though. This battle's not over either.
No, it's not. I thought it was done naturally out the final corner, but Williams has got to go for it at some point. I think he should have gone for it there, to be honest with you. When's he going to get a better opportunity than that? He's just under 2 tenths behind, or was, and now he slipped back to 1/4 of a second.
It is tough to be JR Williams, though, because you may want to fight Jeff Evans, you may want to send a tough dive, but JR is also the second driver steward in the PRL with Arnaud Genet, so he does have to be a little bit careful. Nathan Bartley at the top of your screen, though, takes the white flag. He is 1 lap of Montreal away from taking his first PRL win. All he's got to do is survive. We'll see if he can do that over the next couple kilometers. It's 1 more lap for Evans and Williams, though, as well. Can Jeff hold on to the pressure? Can he hold on to the top 5? Or will JR be able to pounce at the last possible chance?
I think his last chance has gone. I really think he should have gone for a turn 8 last lap, but anyway, he hasn't, and he's now got the last lap to try and do something. Is he just going to follow Jeff Evans in here for a 5th place finish? It looks increasingly like he's going to have to, unless this last bit of LMP2 traffic can present him with a chance.
Does JR have anything left in the chamber? Can't peek to the inside, into the second chicane through 6 and 7. He's liked turns 8 and 9. He's been close before, but I don't know if that's the exit he needs. It's going to be in the draft. You get a little bit of draft down the short straight, and there may be a little bit of LMP2 traffic to help these guys out, to help JR out specifically. That's the 14 of Eugene Maltsev. Not going to cause any trouble for Evans this time, but Williams is close enough to maybe think about a late dive into the hairpin if he's brave enough. He is not brave enough to do it. But out of the final corner, for the first time in the Precision Racing League, Nathan Bartley is a winner at Montreal. He shows up the Precision Racing Esports teammates, and Bartley wins for the first time. Right behind him as well, Jack Hedgecox wins for his third time this season. He's going to keep the championship alive and bring that margin down to 3 points between him and Zegers through the final round. It's going to be a photo finish to the lines. It's a better exit from Williams, but Jeff Evans holds on and finishes in the top 5. An excellent defense from him and his best result of the season. But Bartley, what a story for him. First win after his teammate. Spare a thought for Pat Pelshaw, who came into this race so fast, so prepared, so excited for his home race, and one mistake took him out of it and gives his teammate his first win. And Daniel Zegers as well in LMP2 stole the fastest lap from Hedgecox in those closing laps. That's going to be one critical point. That means that it's 3 points separating those two coming into the final round. Daniel Zegers will have a 3-point margin instead of a 2-point margin.
It's not going to matter entirely. If they finish 1 and 2, then it will be almost whoever wins in that situation. But you say spare a thought for Pat Pelshaw. I'm not going to spare too many thoughts for him because he is going to be the champion after all. A very good season from him, ending maybe not how he wanted with the last couple of weeks, but his first few weeks, the first 2/3 of the season, flawless, and that's presented him with a chance to make some mistakes, actually, which has happened.
Yes, that has been mathematically clinched as he crossed the line with only 5 laps. Oh my goodness, as Nicholas Goen has a fun time through the chicane in the final lap. Pat Pelshaw is officially your champion. He did finish more than 50% of the laps, and that is good enough to clinch the championship for him. But some glory goes Nathan Bartley's way, though. He wins this race and gets to add his name to the all-time Precision Racing League winners book. And if I'm not mistaken, with Adam Ostrich winning earlier today, no, Nathan Bartley's only the 399th winner in PRL history. The 400th winner, though, could come this week. Who knows? Stephen Verity, second place. Great podium from him. And Dave Menino right behind him. Very, very close battle between those two. A solid recovery from Menino all the same. Aiden Young finished 4th ahead of Jeff Evans, who had a photo finish of his own ahead of J.R. Williams. Bradley Holly, Nathan Ray, Grigor Georgiev, and Adam McDonald round out the top 10. Good day for the Piston Pirates. Then we get into the used car lot of cars with heavy damage. Eric Palacio finished P11. Pat Pelshaw crashed on his own with an LMP2 car of his own volition for the first time this season. Doesn't really matter, though, as he's mathematically clinched the championship today, his first championship in the PRL. Ryan Reeves, Darian Roy, Chris Walsh, and Eddie Layton, they were all involved in that big crash on lap 1, and they will leave Montreal in hopes of a better race next week. Jack Hedgecox, though, wins at Montreal. Pole as well gives him a bonus point. He will have a 3-point lead, or a 3-point margin to Daniel Zegers. Even though Daniel Zegers did finish second today, he'll still have a 3-point lead over Jack Hedgecox next week. Could that be enough to hold on to the championship for him? You're going to have to tune in next week to see that battle. Luke Wallace, didn't talk much about him. He had a quiet day, finishing P3. Eugene Maltsev and Frankie Arvello had some of their best runs of the season in the top 5. Then Sorrentino, Ziti, Belair, Leedy, and Wood round out the top 10. 1 lap down was P11, if I'm not mistaken. No, Reagan Chandler did finish on the lead lap, actually, just barely on the end of it. And then Nicholas Goen finished 1 lap down. He had all sorts of fun in the chicane in the final lap. And then the used car lot was Caleb Lehman, Nathan Mon, Joshua Chinsky, Josh Goen, Edvard Anessian, and Ryan Chandler out very, very early. But we got a lot of drivers to talk to. We got champions crowned. We got champions waiting until next week. But I think first, we'll talk to the driver who got it done for the first time in his Precision Racing League career, Nathan Bartley. For the first time, you're a winner. How does that feel?
Yeah, it always feels good to be on the top of the step, for sure. But I think it's a little bit like, I don't know, Sergio winning a race when Max breaks down.
Still a win all the same, though. How are you feeling coming into Montreal? Because you know it's your teammate's home race. He always does a ton of practice. He was looking very fast. How are you feeling coming into today?
Really good. Pat put in some awesome work on the setup, so as soon as he sent that over, and I got just a taste of what the car could do, I knew it would be a PRL dominated race.
Well, Nathan, first win, hopefully the first of many. Congratulations, and we'll see you at Silverstone next week to see maybe you can go 2 for 2.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Nathan Bartley coming home with his first win in the PRL, and like I said, I'm sure the first of many. Before we take you down to Jack Hedgecox, I am actually going to take you to our GTP champion, now that he's officially clinched it. Didn't quite go his way today, but mathematically it has been sealed. Pat Pelshaw, you are the 2024 Season 1 GTP champion of the PRL.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it was not the greatest of race, an incident. And I really wanted to go for that home race win, but championship feels pretty damn good, to be honest.
Hey, you've been so in control of this car, so in control of this series all season. How are you feeling about next season already? It's only a few weeks away. Are you coming back in GTP machinery to compete for another championship?
Absolutely. Gonna go and defend it hard. And yeah, honestly, it was a great season, and I'm really looking forward to the next one with the boys.
Well, we'll see you for one more round at Silverstone. I hope we'll see you in the All-Star Invitational as well. But until then, congrats, Mr. Champion Pelshaw.
Thank you. I want to take a quick moment to thank our PRL sponsors, Advanced Sim Racing, Moranis, Mr. Edge Photography, Racebox, and Advanced Motorsports, and also BotKicker. Without them, it would not be possible. And to you guys also, you guys do a hell of a job with the broadcast, and it's great to watch you every week.
It's company man right there, Pat. Bon victoire, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Pat Pelshaw, your champion of the GTP series. The championship is not decided in LMP2, though, and Jack Hedgecox took a pretty good shot at keeping himself in contention. He's talking with Ewan O'Leary.
Yeah, welcome in, Jack. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on the win as well. Just what has it been like to be involved in a championship fight quite like this one this season?
It's stressful. It wasn't anything like last season, that's for sure. Glad I could put in the time and have it pay off this week and not fumble it like last weekend. So it's really nice, really encouraging for the final next week.
And coming into today, you'd conceded 3 race wins with Daniel Zegers taking them all, but you've stopped that now. How are you feeling about the final round now?
I don't know how I am compared to here at Silverstone. I've driven Canada a lot, so knew the track well. It will be a lot easier to pass at Silverstone, so I think if he sits behind me, it'll be really close. So we'll wait and see. I think it could go either ways, but just glad I could make it close for next week.
Yeah, we're very glad too. Congratulations on the win tonight, Jack, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Jack Hedgecox there, the race winner in LMP2.
We'll go behind him to Daniel Zegers in LMP2 next, because he's going to be coming into the final round. Daniel Zegers, you'll be coming into the final round with a 3-point championship lead by our counts. How are you feeling? It's pretty close margins.
Yeah, man, what a championship battle. What a race. I just watched Jack disappear off into the distance. So first off, congrats to Jack on the race win. But yeah, it's all on the line next week. I think I might have been lucky enough to grab the fastest lap there right out of the pits after putting low fuel in it and a little newer tires. But yeah, we'll see. Silverstone's a fun track.
It is a fun track. Jack mentioned the possibility with those long straights of just saving fuel and waiting. How are you feeling about the dynamic that may go around out there? Do you want to lead early, or do you maybe want to stick behind him and save fuel?
Yeah, you're not going to catch me ever fuel saving in a race. I can't do it. I've tried. I can't. I won't. I just want to. Yeah, Ricky Bobby, want to go fast, but
yes, that's what we like to hear.
Yeah, I want to go fast, but we'll hopefully we are fast next week. Didn't have a chance to put an entire amount of laps behind the car this week, so this showed. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll see if we can get better for Silverstone next week.
Well, Daniel, we'll see you next week. 3 points separate you guys, and we're looking forward to that championship battle.
You bet. Thanks again for all you guys do. Thanks to the PRL for the opportunity. Congrats to the teammate with Pat taking home the championship this season, and then congrats to Nathan as well on the W today. So
Daniel
Looking forward to it.
Zegers.
See you guys next week.
Coming home second in LMP2. Few more drivers to talk to before we get off the air here. Stephen Verity had one of his best results in GTP car, finished second in GTP, and he's with Ewan.
Stephen, welcome to the booth. Good to have you with us. Second place for you today in GTP, and you were holding off Dave Milano towards the end there. Just what was that like? How were you able to keep him behind you?
Hey all. Yeah, it's great to be racing Dave again. Yeah, I knew he had better pace than me. I saw that he had an incident earlier in the race. I was really surprised when he ended up like 2 seconds behind me, I think, after the pit cycle. And I was a little bit worried about that, but I just tried to stay focused. And I think our pace was ultimately pretty similar. I made a couple mistakes that brought him super close at the end. But yeah, just tried to stay focused, and I was kind of surprised I was able to hold him off because he was definitely quicker.
Well, you managed to hang on for second position in the end. Congratulations to you for that, and thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks very much, Stephen Vardy there. Second place, excuse me, here today.
Two more drivers for a quick chat with. We'll finish off GTP here because Dave Menino, you had quite the recovery drive, some early troubles, but drove it all the way back up to third. How does that feel?
Yeah, I mean, pretty good result given how it started. Was definitely not a straightforward race at the podium at all, but pretty proud with the recovery.
Can only imagine next week at Silverstone. You feeling confident? Another podium, maybe a first win? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully a podium. That's kind of what we're gunning for. But yeah, I mean, Silverstone's a fun track, so should be a good time.
Well, Dave, we'll let you get to practicing, and we'll see you there next week.
Great, thanks, guys.
Dave Menino coming home on the podium in GTP. And last but not least, a driver who came home on the podium in LMP2, Luke Wallace. Podium in Montreal. There was quite a bit of drama in the LMP2 class, but you seem to have a pretty quiet race. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, I started off on the back foot, losing P3 straight away. But yeah, just kept it close, waited for a mistake to come, and took it when it came.
That's what matters. Congrats on another podium, and we'll see you in 1 week's time at Silverstone to see if you can grab one more.
Oh yeah, see you then.
Luke Wallace on the podium. I'm sure not the last podium of his PRL career, but Ewan, we've talked about it enough. We're going to have championship finales next week at Silverstone, Pat Pelshaw, and GTP. That's decided. LMP2, though, separated by 3 points. Daniel Zegers ahead of Jack Hedgecox, and it'll all be decided in your backyard. Maybe 2 hours of your backyard.
It's yeah, I've never lived within an hour and a half of it, but yeah, I see what you mean. It's probably the most interesting championship, to be honest, of all of them in championship week, I would say. The LMP2 title fight in this series is just fantastic, so going to be looking forward to tuning in for Silverstone and seeing who can come out on top in that fight between Hedgecox and Zegers, because it really could be either of them.
And also LMP3 and GT4 will crown champions at Long Beach. Remember, Dayton Lowe will not be there next week. If Jason Drescher wins and either gets the fastest lap or the pole position, he'll be able to steal that championship. We'll see if that can happen. Justin Ream will also essentially be in championship control in GT4, but we'll see if that changes as well. We hope you'll see you next week, same time, same place here on RaceSpotTV. We've got GT3 action coming up tomorrow in the PRL here on RaceSpot, but until we see you next time, I've been Joey Tebbin, Ewan O'Leary's been Ewan O'Leary, our producer has been Dustin Allis, and until we see you next time, so long.